Hello, everybody. Pop culture curator here. Sorry, we're running a couple minutes behind. It's really cold. I was running a little late getting home. I had to drive home, and I got in the door just in time to take my dogs out and feed them. Let me check to see if there's anybody in the chat. Do this channel. Gorilla, how are you doing there?
Cold. I'm actually working on filling up the super soaker with some kerosene there. Then I'll be taping a lighter to the end of it there for a homemade flamethrower.
Wait, I didn't hear the first part. Would you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
I said I'm filling up a super soaker with kerosene. Then I'm gonna be taping a Zippo to the end of it.
Nice.
People, do not try that at home. It will melt and you'll catch on fire. I shouldn't have to put that disclaimer, but
I know
there's always one person.
I know one person, or hopefully no little kids listening. Skogly says cheers. Good to see you, Skogly.
Cheers, Skogly.
Okay, so tonight I'll try to get through this relatively quick. I'm exhausted. It's not easy doing three long streams, 3 nights in a row. It's like, oh wow, it really wears me down. The one last night. What's that?
Wouldn't it be 4?
Well, I thought it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well,
I guess you're right. There's 2 on. Right, you're right. There's 1 on Monday and 2 on Tuesday. You're right, because I pretty much been
2 for Tuesday. 2 for Tuesday.
So you're right, and then last night with the horror stream, it went over 4 hours. Oh my goodness!
I listened. I don't feel so bad. I fell asleep with about half an hour left in it.
Sorry about that. Once again, I've got to really crack down on us going off topic and talking about other things.
No, it was fun and all. It was fun and all that. I just got to get to bed, because of work, and I could always re-listen to it later. It's not bad that you go 4 hours.
No,
it's not bad you go 4 hours. You just won't get the live viewers.
Right. What I'm saying is that when we were getting off topic, people were leaving. I lost half my viewers at one point because of that.
Oh.
So it's not fair to the people in the chat because they want to listen. Apparently, I think I don't blame them. They're here about the movie, and when you start talking about other stuff, they probably say, "Well, I'm out of here." I would do the same thing. When I go to videos, I want them to stick on topic too. I don't want them to fill it up with a bunch of filler, especially when it's a 4-hour stream. So I know I've said this last week, but I'm definitely going to crack down on it next Tuesday. There's no more of us going off topic. Every time somebody wants to change the topic and start talking about something else, I'm going to tell them, nope, we can't do that. No, we can talk about that at a different time. That's what happened. It was like every minute or so, somebody say, hey, you know what else I like? I remember that time that blah, blah. And then, they weren't even talking about the movie. And it's like, I've got to crack down on that. No more. Okay. So Skogly, good to see you. Gorilla, good to see you. This is Wednesday, which means obviously we're having our Gilligan's Island stream. I have the fantastic Gorilla's Random Thoughts with me. If you're listening on the re-rub, I hope you like this. If you do, hit the like button and maybe subscribe and hit the notification bell. I have a lot of other content on my channel you might be interested in. And it's still growing. I'll be adding a lot more. Also, share this with your friends if you'd like. Help spread the word. That really helps my channel grow. Right now, it's still relatively small, but I'm in no hurry to make it bigger. I like the people to come and visit. So, tonight, we are on season 1, close to the end. We're doing episodes 31 and 32. So, the first one we're going to cover is season 1, episode 31. Diogenes, Won't You Please Go Home? Which aired May 1st, 1965. Which just so happens to be... Yes?
That doesn't sound like the one I watched.
Oh, no, Gorilla. Yeah, the last one we watched last week was Forget Me Not, where a blow to the head gives a skipper amnesia. Do you remember that?
Yeah, this the first one's the diary one, right, isn't it?
Nope, the diary's the second one.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, we're watching episode 31. Diogenes, Will You Please Go Home? Then the second one is Physical Fatness, about the diary. Which ones did you watch?
I watched the one where Skipper has to go on a diet there because the
Yeah,
professor was making some kind of distress signal.
yeah.
And then the first one was the diary one.
Right. Well, what was the second one you saw?
The one with the signal flare or the glowing phosphorus there.
Oh, wait. Yeah, the first episode is about the diary. The first episode is Diogenes, "Will you please go home?" and it's about the diary. The second one is about Professor making the glow in the dark stuff.
Okay,
So is
so
that
I did right watch the so I
right?
did right watch the right one.
Well, you're probably confused because you're wondering what does that name mean when I say Diogenes, "Will you please go home?" You're thinking, "Oh wait, I don't know what that is." I watched the one with the diary. Yeah, that is the episode with the diary. In fact, I'll read the description. Everyone becomes suspicious of Gilligan when they discover that he's been keeping a diary, and they respond by creating their own written accounts of how they saved Gilligan from the Japanese soldier. So that hopefully should be the hold on. Should be the first one you watched. Is that right?
Yeah, so I did watch the right ones.
You did watch the right one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight we're going to be doing Diogenes. Will you please go home? I'm going to make sure I silent my phone here so it doesn't make too much noise. Turn this up down. Okay, there we go. All right. So our first episode, like I said, we're near the end of season one. Diogenes, won't you please go home? This episode aired May 1st, 1965, which just happened to be my first birthday. So when this episode aired that very same day, I was exactly 1 year old.
And what
Okay.
year was it?
May 1st, 1965. Because I was born
Okay.
May 1st, 1964.
Yeah, I wasn't even a thought in my parents there. Heck, I don't even think my parents were a twinkle in their my grandparents' eyes yet.
No, I'm pretty old, unfortunately.
Well, you're just 2 years older than my dad, so.
Okay. So he was born in
And
66.
67.
3 years then.
And my mom was 69 there. And welcome, Mad Scientist.
Hello, Mad
Oh,
Scientist. So glad you can make it. Glad you could join us, Mad Scientist. Thank you, Gorilla, for putting that up.
yeah.
I'm grabbing something to drink because my throat is dry. I just got home, like I said, and I had to feed my dog and take him out.
Hey, we got plenty of snow. We got plenty of snow if you're looking for something cold to drink.
Well, prove it when I see my sexy female snow woman.
Hey, you'll get it once the wind stops blowing there, and it's not -40 out.
-40 schmorty. Who cares, right?
Hey, I'll tell you what. You go build a snowman out there in that, and I'll build one too. You do it. You build a snowman in 50-mile-an-hour winds and like -40 wind chill, and then I'll build one too.
Sounds simple. I'll be right over tomorrow.
Well, the wind will be died down by then.
Oh well. Oh, okay. I'll try to make it tonight. I'll hit the gas
Yeah.
and I'll drive a little faster. How's that?
Yeah, Mad Scientist, who says I'll be using the carrot?
Sure, that carrot gorilla. Right. Make sure you stick it in the right orifice.
Hey, who says it? Who says there'll be a carrot there? I got a friend there who sells let's just say some more adult stuff there. I can get a pretty good discount just for that.
On adult stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be a fun job you must have.
She? It's all women's stuff she sells.
Oh well, even better. That means it'd be fun for you.
Yeah. Oh god, my neighbors across the street will freaking go nuts. John and Julie will laugh. Todd might flip out.
Yeah, I want to see video. I
Lance
want
will
to see
just
video
shake
of it
his
all.
head.
I want to see video of it all.
Yeah.
And do me a favor. You need to get a tripod where you can put the camera on a tripod on the ground, so you don't have to hold it when you're getting arrested. I want to see the whole thing live streaming.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Everybody videotapes things nowadays.
Exactly right. And you want to, and then, hey, everything's worth those clicks, right?
And I wouldn't get arrested. I'd just be like, just do us a favor. Go take that down, please. So we stop getting fucking phone calls. That's all it'll be. They'll
Okay,
just
I
ask
want it to
you to
look
take
like
it.
I want it to look like Ginger from Gilligan's Island.
All right.
Okay,
So
so
I
go
when I was
ahead.
watching this episode, though, I got a question for you. Who do you
Yeah.
think has a bigger ego, Mr. Howell or Donald Trump? A bigger ego.
I would say, well, here's what it is. Mr. Howell brags about it in everybody's faces. I don't know if Trump does that. So probably both of them, maybe. Because
Well, Mr. Howell brags about how much money he is and how he's a lion and all that in the Wolf of Wall Street there. Donald Trump, he brags about it, how everybody just loves me there. That's the greatest. Or when he wants to do a project like build a wall, it's gonna be a big, beautiful wall. Nobody can build walls. Like he over exaggerates what he can do or what he's doing, or
well,
how it's gonna be the most beautiful and best thing. Mr. Howell just likes to brag how he's a shark and the Wolf of Wall Street there and how much money he has and
I
how.
was gonna go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I think what Donald Trump says in public and what he says in private are probably two different things. And
Yeah,
the reason why he's talking about walls and beautiful and all that, he's trying to build up people's spirit.
yeah.
So when he
I
talks
mean,
like that, he's talking like a politician.
yeah.
When I
I'm not
start
saying it
doing
was a
him,
bad thing.
no. What I'm saying is, if he starts saying, "I have this much money, I own this many properties," I have this many servants, that's Mr. Howell.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of a little different, I guess. I don't know. If I'll tell you what, I'll
Oh
let you
no,
know I'm a multi-millionaire, and I'll let you know if it's the same or if it's different.
yeah. Well, it's just they both have a big ego, but in different ways.
Yes, they both have a big
Not,
ego, and
yeah,
I don't blame
yeah,
them. If I had all that money, I probably would too. And just like them, I would buy me a really good-looking wife too, wouldn't you?
Hey, I got charm, man.
Right. Tell that to Bill Gates. He's got the ugliest wife on the planet. He couldn't even buy a good-looking one with all his money. No offense.
Hell, there.
No offense to rich people out there if you're listening, which I know none of you are. Captain Finity says, "Cheers. Good to see you, Captain. Glad you could join us." Okay, so let's get going here. It's quarter after, so we're going to start off with our first episode here. Diogenes,
Yeah,
would
you
you
gonna
please
read
go
from the
home?
book?
No, because we're starting late.
Oh, we got time. I don't have to work. I won't have to work tomorrow.
Well, I do have my bookmark right. Oh, nope, that's the Star Trek book. Hold on, let me grab my Gilligan's Island book. So last week I talked about how they hired, wasn't it, the skipper?
Uh, no, we skipped it last week. It was a couple weeks ago.
But I mean last time.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. He had to go out. He flew back 6 hours just to get to the auditions.
Yeah, usually well the problem is with me is I got home late and I read a little bit before I do the stream so I could pick out exactly what part I want to read.
We
No, the
read the
last
skip.
part I'm reading. I'm looking at it now. The last part I read is about how they hired Mr. Howell. How when Sherwood Schwartz presented him with the script, he was afraid Mr. Howell wouldn't accept the role, so he told Mr. Howell not, Jim Backus not to read it, otherwise he wouldn't want the role. Okay, so where we were getting ready to read is how he got Natalie Schaefer as Mrs. Howell. I had to see where I left off. The addition of Jim Backus to Gil. Oh, by the way, everybody, this is from Inside Gilligan's Island, from creation to syndication by Sherwood Schwartz, the producer, director, and writer. Well, producer and writer of many episodes of Gilligan's Island. The addition of Jim Backus to Gilligan's Island was of immeasurable importance to the series. His satiric wit as the madcap billionaire was exactly what the series needed to balance the Gilligan and Skipper slapstick. The large percentage of adult viewers that Gilligan's Island attracted, a percentage it still enjoys in syndication, is largely attributable to the zany, sophisticated dialogue between Jim Backus and Natalie Schaefer, Mr. and Mrs. Thurston Howell III. By emphasizing the importance of Jim Backus to Gilligan's Island, I'm in no way diminishing the contribution of Natalie Schaefer. Where would Thurston Howell III be without his Lovey? Here, too, I am indebted to Hunt Stromberg. Natalie Schaefer was his casting suggestion. I remembered Mr. Schaefer from dramatic films. I remember Ms. Schaefer from dramatic films and from the stage. But Hunt's father, Hunt Stromberg Sr., was an important film producer who had used Natalie in some of his movies. Hunt remembers she had played high comedy and played it very well. One meeting with Natalie Schaefer was all it took. I was convinced Mrs. Thurston Howell III was in the room with me. However, playing opposite Jim Backus was no easy task. Jim's characterization of Thurston Howell III was so strong and colorful, it required equal vigor and flamboyance on the part of his wife. Mr. Howell somehow felt writing a check that was large enough could stop a hurricane. By the same token, Mrs. Howell expected somebody to come ashore every Thursday to dust the island and polish the coconuts. It took two extremely talented performers to play these characters who lived in their own little world, preoccupied with finances, culture, and social amenities on this remote desert island. Excuse me a second. Had to take a drink. Mr. and Mrs. Thurston Howell III's concept of the real world was entirely different from the other castaways. Nevertheless, they were never intentionally nasty to the others. They simply didn't understand how the other half lives. This was a common theme in many stories in Gilligan's Island. Each of the castaways was forced to look at life through the eyes of others and to examine his own life or hers as well. That was my purpose in creating this social microcosm. That was the basic theme I was trying to examine. The understanding of each of us must try to have for the other person's problems. And next week, which I promise without delay, I'm going to cover the casting of Ginger, the Professor, and Marianne. How's that? Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I will be doing my mini bios on each of the cast members from Gilligan's Island. There's 7 of them, and I'll be doing mini bios here coming up, spread throughout these series, where I'll show some of the past movies and stills and videos of what they did prior to Gilligan's Island and also afterwards, and talk a little bit about them and their lives. Oh no. Mad scientist. Oh, I see here. Hold me put that back. Mad scientist says, "Pop, get a girl with 2 large carrots." Well, mad scientist, if she has 2 large carrots, you won't need me. Just kidding.
That'd make her Klingon there,
Make her
with the
Klingon.
retarded organ.
All right. No offense to any women out there with carrots.
Yeah. So even Klingons are from San Francisco. They're dressing up.
Right. Well, in San Francisco, dressing up isn't enough. It's got to be a gender change. Remember that. And Mad Scientist says Lamau, LMAO. Okay, here. So let me share my screen. Thank you for reminding me to read the book. I feel terrible letting people down by not doing that. So I'm so glad you reminded me. I'm glad we did. I'm glad that I still had it queued from last time too. So that helped. Okay, so here we go. And now we're going to get through our opening credits. And we have our faithful Gilligan and Skipper and our 3-hour tour and the introduction of our cast on Gilligan Island. And here we have our opening scene, of course. Executive producer Sherwood Schwartz, produced by the famous Jack Arnold, who did a lot of movies. And I think when I do the mini bio, I think I'm going to do Jack Arnold and Sherwood Schwartz as well. Directed by Christian Nyby. Here we open here with Gilligan walking through the forest, being followed by Skipper. And Gilligan goes into the hut. Yes, you have something to say?
I just wonder, so I can understand the concept of the joke, but this is the first time they noticed that the diary they notice he has a diary, and why does he feel like he has to hide it? Like if he didn't try to hide it, no one would read it.
The plot of this, because I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of 60s TV, and this plot was on almost every show in the 60s, where somebody was writing a diary, and they even did the same thing on the Brady Bunch. One person was writing a diary, everybody was jealous, everybody wanted to see what was in the diary, and then they all started writing their own diary, and they all came up with different versions of the same events. I saw them doing. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
I'm just saying it's an old trope. They used it in the 60s, 70s. I remember they even used it on the Golden Girls in the 80s. And
Oh, so
also,
this is a big trope then.
it is very big, just like last week with the amnesia getting bonked on the head, right?
Yeah.
It's an old trope. And plus, we don't know how long Gilligan's been working on that diary because we don't know really, supposedly, how much time is supposed to pass between the last episode and this one.
Well, at
We
least since the Japanese soldier.
Right. Well, not only that though, Gilligan's going to refer to a date in this episode. Do you remember?
No,
That
no, I didn't catch that.
Well, we will. I'll point it out. It's either this episode or the next one, but I'll point it out when we get to it. And it gives us a rough estimate of how long they've been on the island. And I'm glad they did that. Okay, so here we have Gilligan sneaking into his and Skipper's hut, and he's reaching under a plant to grab something, which he's hiding, and he puts in this cabinet, and he locks. And of course, like I said, the Skipper has been following him to the jungle and has been nosy. So Skipper, gotta turn on my subtitles. Let me get those ready. And we do have our Gilligan's Island study. So here we have the Skipper. And Gilligan says, uh-huh. And what did you lock up in the cabin, says the Skipper. Cabinet. Did I spell that? Cabin. Oh, I got home so late. I was in a hurry watching these. I didn't get a chance to pay attention to all the subtitles, but it looks like there's going to be more mistakes. But what Skipper actually said is, what did you lock up in the cabinet? And you go back and fix that. Oh, Gilligan. And Gilligan says nothing. And he says, oh, Gilligan, how can you lock up nothing? And Gilligan says, well, it's hard. You got to get a really big grip on it. And Gilligan acts like something really large and really heavy, trying to throw Skipper off track. And Skipper says, you're saying, in other words, you don't want to tell me. And Gilligan says, yep. And of course, being coy, Skipper says, well, I'm not interested. And we cut to later that night. And it looks like they have Skipper hiding in the dark, trying to get into the cabinet, and Gilligan sees him.
Yeah, I laughed so hard at the scene.
Gilligan whispers and says the key is on top of the cupboard. And without noticing, Skipper says, thanks, Gilligan. And then he reaches up on top, grabs the key, and starts to unlock it. And then that's when he realizes that Gilligan's awake. And Skipper says, that wasn't very funny. And Gilligan says, well, I was trying to be helpful. And Skipper says, it's empty. And then Gilligan says, right. Absolutely nothing. So, of course, Skipper's a little frustrated there. We got a little instrumental music. Gilligan walking through the woods. Now we have a tree with a hole in it. And Gilligan is crawling on the ground. And he reaches inside the hole and says, aha. And then he hears, aha. And then up in the tree is Skipper spying on him. And Gilligan says, Skipper, what are you doing up there? He says, what's more important is what are you doing down there? And Gilligan says, Skipper, if I were you, I'd get out of that tree. And Skipper says, Gilligan, I'm not moving until I've learned your little secret. And Gilligan says, it's no secret. See, what does that mean? I asked the Skipper. And he says, sometimes I'll pull out a piece of honeycomb. And then Skipper says, don't you know better than to stick your hand in a beehive? And Gilligan says, it's not dangerous. Honey drifts down to the hole. That is the silliest thing I have ever heard, said Skipper. And he says, heard. And as they do that, Skipper is surrounded by bees, unfortunately. And of course falls out of the tree.
Yeah.
And of course, Gilligan.
That would freak me out because I'd be in the hospital if I get stung.
Are you allergic?
Yeah.
Have you been stung before?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Being allergic is very, very bad. I've been stung, and I'm lucky I'm not allergic. But yeah, for people that are, that's definitely not good.
Well, how I found out is I was hanging out at my friend's place there, and it was time to go home for supper, you know. I got stung twice while I was at his place there. Well, I ended up passing out twice on my way home there. You know, I was like only in like the 5th grade or so when this happened. I got stung twice. So I like ended up passing out twice when I got home. I just went home, went to bed, and got called into supper, you know. I ate like 2 bites, and I was like, I wasn't feeling well. I was like, let's go. I'm not feeling well. Can I just Gotta be excused, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
Because we had to sit at the table until my mom was done eating and stuff, but they let me
Okay.
go lay down. Then,
Yeah, they knew
like, I
you
got
weren't
called.
feeling good.
Yeah, then my dad
Go
called me
ahead.
out like an hour later out to the dining room there where his desk and stuff is at.
Uh-huh.
I was sitting there talking to him. He was asking if everything was all right. And all of a sudden, I just fucking went down. I passed the fuck out there. I smacked my head on the chair and everything there.
Wow.
I started that I kind of like regained consciousness right away. I've never seen my dad move that fucking fast before.
Oh.
He's like, "Oh shit, they got me. He got me up, and he told my mom, Rep, we're going up to the hospital there." So I took her and we drove about 80 to the hospital there up
Oh.
town north of us. Yeah,
Well,
it
here
turns
in
out like
California, go ahead.
every time like if I'm upright that, my blood pressure would just bottom out and I'd pass right back out. So
Oh,
it
so it
just
was your
kept me
blood
laying
pressure.
down. Yeah.
So what the hospital do and how long were you in there?
Benadryl, Z-Pack that sent me on my way. Turns out I'm allergic to Z-Packs.
Now, what
That
exactly
one I
for us?
broke out in hives.
Ooh, for the listeners out there, tell us what a Z-Pack is.
Oh, some medication there. It's some allergy medication,
Right, but
but
is it like a pill or like I give you a shot or like something they put on your
it's
body
a
or what?
small pill that
Okay,
I was
gotcha.
supposed to take a few of them, but I broke out in hives, so they told me to discontinue that and just keep on the Benadryl.
Oh, Benadryl. Yeah, for Benadryl's for allergies. Well, that's pretty
Yeah,
scary. You don't want that to happen again. It's a good thing
yeah.
your dad was there watching you, and it's a good thing he got you out of bed.
Well, when I was laying down and everything was fine. My blood pressure and everything was normal. It's when I stood up is when it bottomed out.
Yeah, but still, it's a good thing you were in bed all night. Who knows what have happened? And by the way, you're lucky you're alive. If you were in California, you'd be dead right now. In
Why?
California, because you'd be in the emergency room for 2 or 3 days, and then when they find out you're dead, they'll just cart you off to the morgue.
Mm,
The emergencies here are the worst you've ever imagined in your possible life. You're going to go to emergency room. It's going to be packed with people, and you'll be in there for so many hours, probably at least a day or so before even somebody even comes and starts to sign any papers, which is usually your
Well,
death certificate.
that's the perks of being in a small town.
Yes, it is right. Okay, so we
Because
have Skipper. What's that?
you gotta remember, in San Francisco, there, you guys got apartment complexes with more people than's in my town.
Well, when I was a kid, I wasn't in San Francisco. I was more in the central part of California where the farming is. But it's just that the hospitals they really treat people badly. So as I grew up, I realized and I discovered which hospitals to go to and which ones not to go to. I'll put it that way. But when I was a little
Yeah.
kid, they used to take me to one called VMC, which I later found out was the worst one in the whole city. So yeah,
Yeah.
it became a everybody in the whole town knew not to go to that hospital. Otherwise, I had a cousin bleed to death in the waiting room. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Ours was a family practitioner hospital, so we're good. But we better get back on topic here.
Here we go. Yes, we do. Thank you. And by the way, everybody in the chat, if you're listening, if we go off tangent, we're talking about something we're not supposed to. Do me a favor, put in the chat, shut up, and talk about the show. I won't mind you saying that, but that's what I want people to
Yeah.
do because I don't want to lose any viewers and I want to keep you guys entertained. Ola
Yeah.
Great, good
Yeah.
to see you. I'm old.
Papa thing.
I'm old. Right, I'm old, Ola Greg, but I'm not quite that old.
What is
And
Green
that's
Acres?
Green Acres is a TV show from the 1960s about this rich couple that moves out to a rural farm in Idaho or Ohio, one of those, and how they deal with the rednecks and the bumpkins. It's one of my favorite
Okay.
shows. So I actually love Green Acres. I have all 5 seasons
Is
on
it
it.
a
So it's
comedy?
definitely a comedy, and it's funny in my
Okay.
opinion. Okay, so here we have Gilligan. Skipper fell. He said, see, I told you so," because Gilligan warned Skipper about the bees. And here we have the girls trying to figure out what's going on. They're still trying to figure out what it is Gilligan's trying to hide. And of course, knowing the girls, they're going to think it's Jules. So Ginger says, "Could it be a black pearl?" Well, that's possible. Very possible, says Marianne. "I bet that he's got a bag full and he's not sharing them with us," says Ginger. Oh, Gilligan wouldn't do that. Well, he's our friend. Yes, you're right, Marianne. And Ginger says a girl's best friend is and of course it cuts to Skipper saying diamond to the professor, and the professor says geologically impossible.
I thought diamonds were
Now,
found around volcanoes.
well, when I was mentioning, I think it was last night, I had a job that sent me to Arkansas, and they had a diamond mine there. It was a public one. You pay like a flat rate. You go in and you start digging, and if you find a diamond, it's yours.
Cool.
So, yeah, so I'm not sure about the accuracy of this, but
But I thought that was a gold farm that was that in Arkansas.
I know it's a diamond farm, and it's owned by a family. And so every now and then
Okay.
somebody pulls out a really big one. Apparently, the best time to go looking is right after a rain. Okay, and believe me, when I was in Arkansas, the last thing I wanted to do was go digging around for Arkansas. I was digging for a way to get out of there. So okay, so here we are. Professor says Southeast Asia, and Skipper says an emerald, and then Professor says nope, India and the China coast. And then Skipper is still trying to figure out what's going on and says that's fabulously valuable that fits in a space like this. So he's kind of holding up his hands and trying to figure out what could this be. And as soon as he is holding up his hands, it cuts right to the Howells. Mr. Howell doing the same thing. We haven't been on this island for 8 years, says Mr. Howell.
Yeah, because they're talking about champagne.
Right, they're talking about yeah, because Mrs. Howell thought it was 8-year-old champagne. And what makes
So we
you think
know.
that he's hiding? Go ahead.
So we know this is less than 8 years then.
Oh, actually, it was an 8-year bottle of scotch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, an 8-year-old bottle of scotch. And then that's what Mr. Howell says. And Mrs. Howell says, "What makes you think that he's hiding liquid refreshments?" And he says, "It's the Howell instinct. You mark my words. Gilligan is fermenting the juice of the grape." You know, that's another thing too. They could make booze on that island. I mean, people could do it in prison. I'm sure you could do it on Gilligan's Island, right?
Oh yeah, they can make stuff out of the oranges and the lemons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it sit out for like 3 weeks.
Now, I heard people smoke banana peels in prison. So here's Gilligan, and Gilligan's walking along, and Ginger happens to be hiding in a bush. Ginger, what are you doing in there? He says, the bush. He's asking her, and she says, I was looking for something. He says, a bird? And she says, yeah. And for some crazy reason, suddenly Gilligan is a bird expert. So he says, me too. I saw a turquoise-browed motmot and a European hoopoe.
Are those actual birds?
I know, I should look it up, right? I don't know anything about I know what a crow is. I know what a blue jay is, and a finch, parakeet, and a few things, a toucan. But yeah, I'd probably have to look it up. Oh, must have been fun. What kind are you looking for? He says. She says a Baltimore Oriole. And Gilligan says, that's a baseball player. And she says, right. And she walks off. And he shakes his head. And here's where we're going to find out. I think we're going to, well, hold on. I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves. So a professor comes over to visit Gilligan. And Gilligan, professor says, there you are. And Gilligan says, well, I'm sure not hard to find. And professor says, well, what do you mean? He says, everybody's been finding me up in the trees, jumping out of bushes. He's peeking all over the place. And then Gilligan goes to put the broom away. And we see, and he goes, thanks, Marianne, without quite realizing it. And then he does a double take, turns around and says, see what I mean? And here, now, watch what they say here. And then Marianne, immediately with her excuse, says, need the broom for spring house cleaning. It should be obvious you've hidden something valuable. And then we skip by it. I don't want to lose that part. And he says, see what I mean? I don't want to get a copyright struck. Need the broom for house cleaning. I've got to watch there. And Gilligan says, what? In November. You got that?
Yeah.
She said spring house cleaning. And Gilligan said, what? In November? Now remember, we had a Christmas episode already this year. So what this is establishing is that they've been on the island for over a year now at least. Because originally I was thinking maybe one season equaled about a year. But nope, they've actually been on the island more than a year. I'm guessing maybe
Oh,
about a
then
year and a half. What's
they're
that?
aging gracefully on that island.
Well, but it also explains the second episode about Skipper, right? So
Yeah,
it should be obvious you've hidden something valuable, says the professor.
yeah.
What's so
Then
valuable about
Oil
it,
Greg,
Valerie? Go ahead.
Oil Greg's asking if they'd have seagulls. Yeah, they would.
I don't think so. I think seagulls are mostly around big land masses, but I could be wrong.
I thought they were around. I thought they were around islands also.
It is possible because you heard in the old days where sailors and pirates that whenever they were lost at sea and they would spot seagulls, they knew they were near land. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's just like island or if it's mainland.
yeah.
But hey, that's
Okay.
something we all. I feel bad about not knowing everything. Everybody, sorry about that.
Yeah,
What's so
I'm not.
valuable about it? I can't tell you this. The name of the episode is Diogenes. Won't you please go home? Diogenes was the name of a famous philosopher. He lived out in the streets. He was very poor, and he's known for carrying around a torch lamp and holding it in people's faces. And he said he would know an honest man when he met him. And unfortunately, he never did. So Gilligan finally confesses to the professor that it's just a diary. A what? Says the professor. He says, my diary. And he says, you've been keeping it hidden? He said, yaha, and I did real good. I forgot where I hid it. And the professor says, wait till I tell the others. And the professor leaves.
Yeah, he was real amused by that.
Right. And of course, there we have it in the back of Gilligan's pocket. And now we have the professor explaining to the other castaways that's the valuable possession that Gilligan's been hiding. I thought it was something worth a fortune, like a rare jewel, says the skipper. I thought it was a bag of black pearls, says Ginger. I know what it was. You can't fool Thurston Howell the third. And Skipper says, well, you thought it was a bottle of scotch. And she says, great difference between a bottle of scotch and a diary. And not to Dean Martin. And he says, fast one. So he meant the joke. And they didn't put the word one in the text, unfortunately. But that was, he was basically saying not to Dean Martin. And then he said, fast one. Okay.
Yeah,
You probably don't know who
Dean
Dean Martin
Martin
is.
was he a singer?
Singer, comedian. He worked with Jerry Lewis. I don't know if you know who that is. He was a nightclub performer, did a lot of Vegas. But part of his act was acting like he was drunk a lot of the time. So that's why
Okay.
Mr. Howell threw the joke about the scotch.
Yeah. So, but how would that make the difference between scotch and a diary?
No, I think what he's saying is that Dean Martin wouldn't know the difference because he's so drunk.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So basically, it was the Ron White of the '60s.
I don't know who Ron White is.
He was part of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. He was always drunk on stage. My aunt went to one of his performances one time, and she was so pissed because he got so drunk on stage there with the scotch, they forgot half of his performance there, and they didn't get a refund. Yeah. Oil Greg says Ginger has awesome hair for living on an island.
Yes, she does. And that's not a very good performer, one that actually gets drunk on stage. The whole point is you're supposed to act like you're drunk, and you're supposed to remember your entire skit. So the fact that he actually got drunk on stage and forgets what he's supposed to say, that's not very professional. I'm surprised he
Yeah.
even went anywhere at that rate. It's like a singer
Oh,
getting on stage and not being able to sing. It just
yeah. He's a big he has some pretty good specials there.
I mean,
Also Captain Finity says Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
there you go, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Hail, Captain. So Professor says the mystery has been solved. He's merely been keeping a diary of our life here on the island. And now they start to think, and here we get a voiceover of Skipper thinking, hey, wait a minute, I wonder what Gilligan wrote about me. And then we get a voiceover with Ginger saying, oh my gosh, I got to read what he wrote. And then Mr. Howell saying, good heavens, will he defame the Howell name? So we cut to Gilligan over by the lagoon fishing, and here comes the skipper. And he says, "Hi, Gilligan. Hi, skipper. You know what I'm going to do after we get rescued? I'm going to get myself a new ship. Guess he'll be my first mate." And then Gilligan says, "Skinny Dave Davis?" And skipper says, "Guess again. Ethel Mulligan?" And he says, "No, you." He, of course. "If people say bad things about me, nobody would give me a ship," he said. "Who would say bad things about you?" says Gilligan. "If I was to blame for the record that I was a bad officer," says Skipper, "I couldn't handle men. Maybe people could say those things. In that case, could I have just well, Gilligan says nobody would say those things, Skipper. And Skipper says, in that case, could I have just have a peek at your diary?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't do that, says Gilligan. Gilligan, not even where I'm mentioned, says the skipper. And Gilligan says, nope. And then, of course, Skipper immediately says, Gilligan, as your skipper, I demand it. And Gilligan says,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Skipper,
Okay.
but it's private. Go ahead.
Yeah. Euler Greg says Dean was a drinker but never flubbed a line.
Actually, his
Euler
kids,
Greg says cheers.
Dean Martin's kids came out with it. That was actually an act. He was drinking apple juice. The drunk act. I mean, they said he's a teetotaler. He basically hardly drank at all. But it was apple juice. Like he made a lot of famous shows called the Dean Martin Celebrity Roast. He even had his own show called the Dean Martin Celebrity Hour or something like that in the '60s. But yeah, it was an act. Dean Martin did actually not drink on camera. It was apple juice. So Gilligan says, "I'm sorry,
And
Skipper, but right."
Well, yeah. Hail Herc, welcome. There. Then
Hail Herc.
Euler Greg says, "Hey Herc," and Euler Greg says the movie would be based on his diary. Okay, we're all caught up.
I think he means Gilligan. So Gilligan says, "What if I say no?" And of course, Skipper says, "I'll have you put in irons." "I thought you were going to make me walk the plank," says Gilligan. "Plank? Yes," says Skipper. "Then I'll have you keel hauled. Then I'll have you drawn and quartered." And Gilligan asks him, "How do you spell quartered?" And Skipper thinks about it for a second, and he says, Quartered. And he said that Gilligan smiles. And then Skipper realizes that it's a waste of time. Do you understand the joke here, Gorilla?
Yeah, I understand it. There, I was laughing at that. Gilligan's just enjoying all this.
Your mic's breaking up.
Yeah, Gilligan's just enjoying all this here. I laughed at this here. He's just enjoying it.
I think the reason why he had Skipper spell quartered is because Gilligan doesn't even know what it means. And that's why the skipper's looking at him like, oh, never mind. And here we are with Ginger.
I was thinking that he asked him how you spell quarter, like he's going to write that down in his diary there.
No,
and the skipper tried to have it drawn in quarter.
You're cutting out. We're getting a lot of popping.
Okay.
Sorry.
Better? Is this better?
Hello?
Is this better?
Nope.
Is this better?
Like popping and it's like there's like popping and it's cutting out.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
That's a little better. That's better.
Okay. I understood the joke was he asked Skipper how he spelled quartered so he could put it in his diary that the skipper was going to threaten to have him drawn and quartered there. It looks like Greg agrees with me.
Oh, that's true because he doesn't want him to put it in the book because then it would be evidence that he's a horrible skipper if he tortures his crew.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right about that. And I don't think. Well, but I would be surprised if Gilligan knows how to spell it. But you're probably right. So here he is talking to Ginger. I can't. He said, "You don't understand." She says, I'd like to show you my diary, but I can't." He says, and she says, "I thought you liked me." And he says, "I do." "Don't you want me to be a famous movie star in the whole world?" She says. "Sure. Well, then show me your diary," she says, "and they'll make a big motion picture. Don't you want to be my co-star? Me and the movies? Sure." And she said, "We'll have lots of scenes together and hugging. Uh-huh. And we'll rehearse it over and over and over," she says. And of course, she goes to kiss him, and he backs up and hits his head on the log and slides down like Gilligan does. And here we have Thurston Howell. I, Thurston Howell the third, creator of careers, builder of men's minds, shaper of their souls, hereby do take over. It's just that I don't understand it, says Gilligan. Leave the thinking to me, you see, says Mr. Howell. Hand the diary over to me and I'll publish it, he says. An author par excellence. But you'll read it, says Gilligan. Well, as a publisher, it'd be my duty to read it, Mr. Howell says. I couldn't let you do that. I'm an ordinary man. We missed a joke in between those slides. I apologize. But like I said before, that's why I encourage everybody to watch this episode on your own. There's a lot of jokes that I'm not able to cover in these slides. That's why I'm making mistakes also as well. Anyway, Gilligan is very suspicious. And Mr. Howell says, I'm an outstanding citizen of the community, a man known for his compassion, for his consideration. And Gilligan doing the same thing. Mr. Howell. And Mr. Howell says, will you be quiet? Man known for his courtesy and thoughtfulness to his fellow man. But Mr. Howell yells, shut up. And Gilligan says, Mr. Howell, I'm sorry. It's private. Mark my words. You cross swords with Thurston Howell the third. Mr. Howell, yes. How do you, well, Mr. See, that's why I hate missing these jokes. But Mr. Howell said something about having him attacked by beasts. And then that's why Gilligan said, how do you spell beast? And large beast, Beast. And then just like Skipper earlier, Mr. Howell realizes he shouldn't talk about this any further because it will not be good. If you're right, Gilligan puts it in the diary. And here we are. We cut to later with Gilligan by the lagoon. And he says, you're not going to be here, he says. He's got the diary. You've caused me enough trouble, and you're not going to anymore. He tosses the diary into the lagoon. And when he does, he turns around. It's Skipper. And as you can see, all the castaways are there. I've been watching him the whole time. You see that? I threw it into the lagoon, says Gilligan. And he's all excited. And he says, Mr. Howell, I bet it went a mile. Hey, Mr. Howell, did you? And of course, they're all disappointed because they didn't get to read it and they walk away. And Gilligan is just confused. So here we are. Later on, Gilligan is just resting and he's playing with the bayonet. I'm guessing it's a bayonet that Japanese soldier left on the island from that one episode. So Mrs. Howell sees him playing with the bayonet and she has the wrong idea what he's doing. So she says, oh, Gilligan, don't do that. Don't do that. And he says, what do you mean? She says, the Cupid, Larry, Harry, or Harry, Larry, or whatever it is. She's referred to Harry Carey, by the way. And she said, they do with those dreadful things. And she's talking about the bayonet. And he was saying, all I was doing was looking at the bayonet. And she said, you're talking to me. He says, of course I am. And I talk to everybody, but I have a feeling sometimes nobody listens, she says. I want to find out why they're mad at me. Thurston explained that to me all last night, she said. How did he put it? That nasty habit you have of always telling the truth. And he said, I wrote down what happened. I didn't make anything up. You wouldn't be mad at me. I wrote that I look at you like a mother. And she said, oh, Gilligan, that's sweet of you. But I don't think I will mention it. Would rather not be considered. She said, well, Mr. Howell would rather not be considered your father. And he says, why? I can't remember the exact joke, so please watch this episode. But anyway, Gilligan mumbles to himself, I wish they'd all write their own diaries. I feel terrible because I missed the joke. But I think I will mention it. Why not? I have an idea that he would rather not be considered your father. I wish they'd all write. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, sorry about that. Maybe they'll stop being mad at me. So Gilligan says, I wish they'd write their own diaries and maybe stop being mad at me. Here we have later Gilligan coming into the hut, and we have Skipper, of course, writing. And Gilligan's using the bayonet to whittle. And Skipper's curious at what he's doing. What are you doing, Gilligan? And he says, whittling. Must you whittle? And he says, I won't do it if it bothers you. And he says, it bothers me. So Gilligan sits down, and he starts throwing the knife to the ground, where it sticks into the ground. And Skipper says, what are you doing? Let me show that. And Gilligan says, mumbly peg. You know what Mumbly Peg is, Gorilla?
No, never even heard of it.
Right. That's why I wanted to make sure to let everybody know. Mumbly Peg is an old game. In fact, it's mentioned in Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. And this just shows how old it is. It was back in the days where two boys would play, each had a pocket knife. And they would face each other. They'd stand a few feet away from each other. And they would throw the pocket knife down to the ground where it would stick in the ground. Whichever boy had the knife stick closest to their foot would win. And if the knife stuck into your foot, that means you automatically win. That was an actual
Oh,
contest.
ours was chicken there, and you threw the knife down, and wherever it's stuck in the ground, you had to move your leg out to that spot there, and so the people kept spreading their legs further and further apart there until one person fell over.
It sounds like they probably changed it so it wasn't so dangerous.
Oh no, we used a butcher knife. No
Well,
wait,
yeah,
no
but as
wait,
long,
we,
right. But
we
did
used
you,
my
but did you throw it at the piece, like at the other person's foot, or did you throw it away from their foot so they would have to spread their legs?
the goal is to get their legs to spread apart.
That's what I'm saying. So the point was is to not throw the knife near their foot, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
but
That's why Mumbly Beck they used to throw it at their foot, and that's what I'm saying is that game has probably evolved over the years.
my dad would have killed my neighbor if they would have stuck it had a knife come the buck. We used a buck knife, not butcher knife. We used you know or buck knife there. That
Right, but
yeah,
right, that's why the
you
little boys just use little pocket knives. That's why it wouldn't. I mean, it's still bad, but it wouldn't be as dangerous as like a buck knife or a butcher knife.
yeah no, but my dad would kill the neighbor if the knife would went through my foot.
Oh, I'm sure he would. That's why people don't play Mumbly Peg anymore. So Skipper's looking at the bayonet, and of course, and he says, "Do you remember my diary?" And he says, "Of course, I remember."
Yeah,
Oh, but he tells about the Japanese soldier. He says they were all locked
yeah,
up in a compound. I rescued them, says Gilligan.
yeah.
You rescued them? And Gilligan says, "Sure, don't you remember?" I
Yeah.
crept up and took the key around his neck. So here we get a clip from a previous episode where they had the Japanese soldier played by Vito Scotti on the island, and he had taken the castaways hostage.
Yeah. It's pretty nice that they have some setting continuity in this show
It is.
with
It is.
like the bayonet and the rifle and stuff.
Exactly right. Exactly. And and even ammo. So here we have where this is an actual clip from the earlier episode where the castaways are already in cages and Gilligan, the Japanese soldier, is asleep. Gilligan sneaks up to take the keys. So this plays out just like it did in the earlier episode. Gilligan has the keys. He goes over to tell the skipper, but the skipper's ignoring him. And he says, "Skipper, how you doing?" And Skipper says, "Shh." So Gilligan just lets him keep digging as Gilligan walks around and unlocks the lock and lets everybody out, just like it did in the original episode. And he's got the gun, and he has Marianne hold it for him. And he lets the ladies loose. Now he goes over to let Mr. Howell and the professor loose, of course. And now they all gather around the skipper. And of course, Gilligan says, "Skipper, use this. It might be a little faster." And he says, "Thanks." And then he realizes what's going on, of course. Gilligan, I have never heard a more weird fabrication, says the skipper.
Yeah. Now I got a quick question here. Did
Yes.
they ever show what happened to all the grenades once they took those down?
Nope.
Oh, so we never get to see them again?
Nope. All we saw was the Japanese soldier leaving the island in a hurry. In fact, he was even doing circles around inside the lagoon, but they never showed what happened to all the weapons and everything he left behind.
Oh, we get to see the gun again. I know that for a fact. But it'd be
And the
nice to
grenade,
know what
right?
happened to the grenades.
I know, right?
'Cause
Well,
those could be useful stuff.
yes, they could. And well, they the fact that they haven't mentioned doesn't mean they're not there. So maybe they're keeping them in their armory with the rest of their ammo and guns. So
Yeah.
Skipper says that's a weird fabrication, and of course Gilligan doesn't know what that means. So he says, "You like the way I told it?" Gilligan, I have just written our experience, he says, with that Japanese sailor in my diary, so that the whole world will know the truth. In these pages, Gilligan is exactly what happened. So now we're going to get Skipper's version of the story. And he says he saved Gilligan's life, or you wouldn't even be here, he tells Gilligan. Now, remember, everybody, what really happened is what we just saw in the last clip.
Yeah. And greetings, Lemon Pie.
Hey, Lemon
Welcome.
Pie, so good to see you. I'm glad you could join us. So, Skipper Gilligan says, Skipper says, you wouldn't even be here because I rescued everybody. And Gilligan says, I wouldn't. He says, now, hear this is Skipper. One by one, my fellow castaways disappeared. In spite of my warnings that there was danger afoot. And it looks like Gilligan's already bored. He wandered off only to be captured by the enemy. I found myself all alone except for Gilligan. And of course, now we go to Skipper telling his story. And he says, what's the matter, boy? And of course, Gilligan's acting like a coward behind the tree. And he says, oh, sir, all of our friends are captured. The Japanese sailor is going to kill them. Ha! Not while I have the use of these two arms, says the skipper. Showing, I guess, what are his muscles. He has guns and things, and all you have is your bare hands, says Gilligan. Gilligan, I order you to stay here, and then turn my mind. As I turn my mind, he said he's going to rescue the other castaways, then turn his mind to the enemy. But what if you are captured? You shall never know that, lad, for you would hear nothing but my steady breathing throughout his tortures. There should be a space there between his and tortures, but we'll continue. Now we hear suspenseful music. And Skipper advances. We have the women in the cage with the grenades, just like in the prior episode. Skipper, we're doomed. Oh, I'm too young to die. Oh, if I could just see my darling Thurston once more, she says. Trust me, madame. I'll see to it. They don't show all the words here, unfortunately. That you and your husband are soon reunited. There it is. Oh, a live hand grenade. He notices the hand grenade, and he pulls it off the door, and it drops to the ground. And he picks up the hand grenade. Stand back, ladies. Sometimes the shrapnel comes through my fingers, he says. If I can try to show this joke. Of course, there we go. So supposedly the hand grenade blows up in Skipper's hands. As you can see, he's most likely exaggerating. And then Ginger says, Skipper, what a brave and dangerous thing you've done. And here we have the Japanese soldier torturing Gilligan, trying to, basically it's a version of, I'm guessing, a stretcher. And now it's time for the famous Japanese water torture. And I want to mention, too, that I'm glad they brought back Vito Scotti. He played the Japanese soldier in the previous episode that we're talking about, and he came back for this episode to film these extra scenes. So I'm glad they did that. So now it's time for the famous Japanese water torture, he says. I thought it was the Chinese water torture, says Gilligan. And he says they copied it from Japan, of course. You know, I got a good mind not to torture you, he said. Gilligan says something that upset him. He says, I got a good mind not to torture you. I have many questions to ask you to answer, he says. All right, now, drop by drop. And he basically splashes a whole bunch in Gilligan's face. And Gilligan says, that's a mighty big blop. And the soldier says, I can show you. And then here comes the skipper. You don't even need to get a name or a serial number, says the skipper. And of course, Gilligan, skipper, you have come to save me.
Yeah.
And the soldier said, nothing can save you or him. Oh, says the skipper. Acting over melodramatic, and of course, making it look like the Japanese soldier is just standing there. And the skipper grabs the gun and starts to bend it and take it apart. And of course, in his bare hands. Like that. And the Japanese soldier just stands there, of course. And he tosses it. And that's the end of Skipper's version of the story. And that, Gilligan, is actually what happened, says the skipper. Of course, I have omitted some of the parts where I acted far above the call of duty, of course, trying to be modest. Then all officers do. Oh, yeah, says Gilligan. Now, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, okay, skipper. Gilligan, your bayonet. So he hands Gilligan his bayonet, and Gilligan leaves. Now he's with the Howells. No, it's just I'm a little mixed up, he says. I was talking to Skipper about the Japanese sailor, and he remembers everything different. See, And then Mr. Howell says, well, he wrote it down in his diary too. He says, see, I jotted it all down in my journal. And now he rifles through the pages. Oh, and Gilligan says, you did? What happened to me? And Mr. Howell says, you were shot. And Gilligan says, oh, no. He said, oh, that's sorry, that's the wrong page. So which means that's funny Mr. Howell's writing that because Gilligan hasn't been shot yet by anybody, but oh well. I think Mr. Howell may be exaggerating just a bit.
Yeah.
And now
And
Mr. Howell starts reading his version of the incident.
yeah, so
Go ahead.
we got everybody saying hi to each other there. Then Greg said,
Nice.
Gabe said, "Hey, lemon with the red wine." Lemon pie said, "I'm actually having red wine right now." Euler, lol. Strictly
Not
for
much.
the
Antioxidants, of course. Antioxidants, of course.
Then we get a thumbs up with wine.
Thumbs up with the wine. I'm not much of a wine drinker because to me it all tastes bitter. But a good friend that's here in the chat knows wine a lot better than I do. In fact, he's like a connoisseur when it comes to that stuff. He's like a super sensitive drinker, taster, or something like that.
Hey, pop culture.
Yeah.
Boone's Farm is not wine.
Boone's Farm is not wine. How about Muscatel or Night Train?
I like a good Moscato or like a nice sweet wine, like with the pinks there. I really like the Barefoot Moscato.
Wait, you said sweet wine like the pinks?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Are you talking about champagne?
No, it's pink. You got like three different color wines. You got your white wine, your red wine, and a pink wine.
Okay. So for those of you in the chat, if you're listening, Mad Scientist, please chime in. Is that right? Which one's the sweet one? Which one should I try, Mad Scientist?
That'd be your pink wine.
Pink
So
wine.
I'll talk to my sister there, and I'll see if I can get you a list of some really good wines there. Which reminds me, I should go to a wine party again. That's a lot of fun.
I appreciate that. I've always wanted to be a wino. I guess I should start now, huh? Start getting caught.
You always wanted to be a whiner? You always wanted to be a whiner?
No, I can whiner. I don't usually whine, but I can be a wino.
Yeah.
In California, I'll probably make money being a wino. They pay people to be on drugs and to be alcoholics, so that's what I should try. I'll make more money than what I'm doing now. So Gilligan is talking to Mr. Howell. Mr. Howell was joking about Gilligan being shot, and now Mr. Howell starts to read his rendition of the same story with the Japanese soldier. And Mr. Howell continues, the menace stalked our tiny little island. Despite all my efforts to protect him, I did the only thing I could. And of course, it fades out. I allowed myself to be captured too, he says. And here we have the soldier puts him in the cage and locks it. And the professor asks him, and he says, getting captured? And he says, yes. Basically, Mr. Howell tells him it's all part of the plan. Very few men would have thought about it, he said. You just leaving everything to me, he said. Because the professor doesn't know what to do. Of course, Mr. Howell is suddenly acting like he's smarter than the professor. So the professor says, what are we going to do? And Mr. Howell says, you just leave everything to me. And Mr. Howell takes off his shoe and turns around away from the camera and starts working on something with his shoe. And reveals a shovel. And of course, the professor says, how did you ever do that? And he says, top secret, my boy. Right. Top secret.
Did you see what Greg put?
No, put it in chat. Because mine's covered up.
Yeah, but Little Pie says, I prefer the drier half of the spectrum. I do not like dry wines at all. Greg says, sangria is quite fruity. Euler says it depends on the food and the mood. Yeah, it does depend on the food there. And Chianti with fava beans.
With fava beans. Okay. Mad Dog.
Euler Greg says Mad Dog.
Yeah, that stuff. If I remember right, I think that's some heavy stuff. A little too heavy for me.
Yeah.
And Ola Greg says, nice reference, Lemon. Okay, so Mr. House says, "Keep an eye open. I must rescue everyone." And Mr. House starts feverishly digging. Okay. So here we have the Japanese soldier has Gilligan hostage. Uh-oh, it's time for execution. "Please, I'm just a young innocent boy," says Gilligan. "Oh, it makes no difference. It's time for execution," says the soldier.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm
And
stalling
notice
for
that they
time."
got a brick wall. And notice they
I think
got
it's
a mud
rock.
brick wall.
Right, I think it's rock. I don't think it's brick.
I thought it was like mud bricks.
Well, bricks are usually all the same shape, like bricks.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in fact, one of my first jobs was a bricklayer. I was 15, 14, 15, somewhere. It was a hard job. But anyway, bricks are usually like what you're thinking about. Looks like a square or a cube. And when we built walls like what Gilligan is standing in front of, those were called adobe. They were made out of like mud, but they were all different shapes. So you can have different kind of walls. You can have stone, you can have adobe, you can have um, marble, but
Yeah.
brick usually
I
means
got
things that look like squares or
I got a
rectangles,
brick
actually.
house though. I
Well,
got a brick
brick
house
house,
though.
as long as it's well insulated, right? And you don't need, obviously, you don't need any outside siding, aluminum siding.
Yeah. The only bad thing is if we ever get an earthquake, this thing's coming down.
How often do you guys get earthquakes?
It's once in a blue moon, but the fault line that follows the Mississippi River there, that's about 150 years overdue. Or
Well, look at this.
the last earthquake was 150 years ago. It's like it's way overdue.
Well, look at it this way: if there's an earthquake that is uh, so rough that it makes your house fall down, I guarantee you, the other houses that are made out of wood and plaster, those are going to go first
Yeah.
because you're built. That means your brick house is going to be the strongest one on the street. Does that make sense?
Well, they said that like the documentary I was watching on this fault line here said that the major issue with like around here is like California, a lot of their newer buildings are supposed to be earthquake resistant or have
Yes.
like
Yeah, they're designed to
earthquake.
bend and sway, right?
Yeah, all our buildings are all the like especially like downtown St. Louis and all that stuff, and like our the downtowns in the cities and that
Uh
they're all
huh.
brick and mortar, so they do not have that flexibility. So what the bricks will crack is just collapse the buildings.
Then that means, for example, California. The only reason why our buildings are built this way is because that's the law. It's the safety standards. When they build buildings, they have to do that now. Just like when they passed the law, they all had to have water sprinklers.
Yeah,
So if they don't have that in your where you are, that means they don't think that it's important enough. I don't think they're expecting an earthquake anytime soon.
yeah. Well, we
Otherwise,
get
they
like
would make it the law.
it's like one like every 100 years
Go
or
ahead.
so. It's one every 100 years. So,
And let me ask you this: do you ever get like tornadoes or anything where you're at?
oh yeah, we just watched
Hello,
one.
hello.
We just watched one here not too long
Oh,
ago.
gorilla.
This summer. Can't you hear me?
Wait, you're cutting out. I can't hear you. Hello, hello,
I'm not.
hello, hello. Wave your hand. I'm just kidding.
Uh,
I'll continue until you fix your mic, gorilla. So Gilligan says, "I'm stalling for time, so one of my brave friends can rescue me." "Oh, with one big laugh," says the soldier, laughing. And of course, here's Mr. Howell. "How I'm saved," he says Gilligan. And the soldier says, "How so?" "And we'll see who is saved," says the soldier. And of course, Mr. Howell, "Never fear, Gilligan. Thurston is here." Mr. Howell, okay, gorilla popped out. He'll be right back. So Mr. Howell miraculously happens to have a whip, and he's a master at it. So the first thing he does is he uses the whip to yank the gun out of the soldier's hand, and then he lashes out the whip again, and he wraps it around. Now I hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So no, but what I was saying there is we get like one every 100 years. So, but we just we get tornadoes every summer. That well, I didn't get a chance to film the one we had last summer. Come
Well,
barreling
no, what
down.
I was asking, since if you get tornadoes, do you guys have like storm cellars and that kind of stuff out there?
Yeah.
Oh well, then that's where you're going to go before your house collapses if the bricks go down, right?
Yeah. No, I'll be going. Oh, my ass will be flying out that damn door.
Is your storm cellar under your house, or is it outside near the house, like in the Wizard of Oz?
I got a basement. We got
Oh, I
basements
wish I.
around here.
They have a few here in some really old houses. I had a big, nice 2-story house with a basement. I wish I had one now. Okay, so Mr. Howell uses the whip and he knocks the gun out of the soldier's hand, and then he lashes the whip again, which wraps around the soldier, and he pulls him over. And for some reason, the two decide to dance. Of course, Mr. Howell should do everything with class, right? And then he
Oh,
lashes the whip and throws the soldier into the lagoon. Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I was gonna catch up on the chat again. We had quite a few
Yeah,
here.
yeah, please do. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Little Pie says it's a Silence of the Lambs line pop.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I should have known. I wasn't a fan
Yeah.
of those movies, but I understand, Lemon.
Yeah, pronounced hard C
Chianti.
Chianti. Okay.
There we go. Thank you, Lemon Pie.
Yeah, and Lemon singing he's got a brick house.
I
Greg
think
says
Lemon's referring to the Commodore song "Brick House." There's an actual song in the '70s.
okay.
That's why. Go ahead.
Euler says my Jello house will just bounce around to be okay. Hands are a problem though. He was hearing both of us. Then Lemon Pie says each new house in California must have a built-in racial sensitivity consultant.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Perhaps a Westworld 73 reboot with AI for that purpose, Lemon.
I know, right? Yeah, in California, given time, I won't be surprised, right? It'll probably be when you drive home before you can enter your neighborhood, they'll probably stop you and do a survey about your racial sensitivity. And of course, if you're the wrong color, they're going to rip you, pull you through the rack.
Hey, according to these SGWs there, I am officially oppressed, and therefore I am also cannot be racist there, because I am mostly Slovak. I am mostly Slovakian. Yeah, oppressed.
You said, well, you're oppressed? How?
I'm Slavic. I'm mostly Slavic.
Oh, that explains it. Of course you're oppressed.
I'm Native American and mostly Slavic there, so therefore I'm oppressed.
Are you considered a person of color?
Yes.
Oh, what color?
I don't know. They keep changing the damn thing.
Now remember,
I can't keep up with it.
Remember now, the liberals and in California, all they see is black and white. You're one or the other. Right? There's no separate races and stuff in California. They only see two colors, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Slavic people are apparently people of color. Even Luke Radowski, who's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Polish guy, he's considered oppressed because he's Slavic also.
Well, I'm part Portuguese and part Native American Indian. What do you think I fall under?
Well, it depends on your percentage there.
There's no percentage. They look at the color of your skin. So I fall under white. If you're not black, you're white. That's how they look at it in California. You're one of the other.
Because according to Elizabeth Warren there, you could be Native American with 1064th or something?
Oh, really? Well, not here. If I did, I would be rich right now because there's Native American casinos all over the place, but I don't get any of that money.
Yeah, I don't have enough Native American in me to get some of them kind of the profits there. But
right. Those casinos made it very strict. They don't want to give the money out to just everybody.
Yeah, but didn't you hear about that with Elizabeth Warren there?
Probably not.
She spent her whole life riding this house. She was Native American and all that. She got scholarships, she got grants, she's got jobs, all based on saying she was Native American there. Then during the presidential debates with Trump offered her like $10,000 to go to a charity, or it was like $10,000 or $1 million or something like that to prove that she's Native American, and he'll give it to the charity of her choice and all that. So she went and had a DNA test done, and it turned out she was 1/164th or 1064th.
Of course,
Cherokee.
This is virtue signal, right? So Mr. Al lets Gilligan free. He throws the soldier into the lagoon, and now it says, "Come, let us set the others free." No need
Yeah.
to worry about
And
them, my boy. Go
yeah,
ahead.
Oiler Greg says a Prussian Olympics.
Russian Olympics. Well, if you have a wheelchair, you'll win for sure.
Yeah, and
And
Scogly says true
go ahead.
story.
True
Scogly
story.
says
Thank you,
true
Skokie.
story.
So Mr. Howell finishes telling his story, and I said, "I'm sure you remember now." And that doesn't matter to me. What is important to Gilligan is I recorded the whole thing for posterity, says Mr. Howell. And then Gilligan says, "Thanks for remembering it for me." And Mr. Howell says, "That's all right, Gilligan. Anytime at all, feel free to call on me," he says. And Gilligan leaves the hut, and there's Ginger apparently writing her own diary. And Gilligan asks Ginger if she remembers about the Japanese sailor. And she says, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, that's reel 5." So, of course, she's writing hers like in movie reels. So she says, "Oh, that's reel 5." And then Gilligan says, "You were rescued?" And she says, "Oh, you remember it too." And he says, "You see," she said, "You see, you were tied to a tree." Now we have Ginger's version. So we have Gilligan tied to a tree with a soldier. So the soldier says, "But others are captured too. So now I shoot you." And Gilligan says, "Someone will rescue me because that's the American way." Ooh, American movie star has come for the rescue. I better be careful on how I say that. Oh, American movie star. There we go. And then Ginger pops out from behind the tree saying, "Oh, you think I'm just a movie star, don't you?" And then Gilligan says, "Oh, there's something behind that grease paint we don't know about." And she says, "I'm secret agent 3725 36." And of course, the soldier repeats this, looking her up and down 37, 25, 36. And she says, "I'm a judo expert and I'm no rookie." Ha. She says she's holder of the black belt. And the soldier doesn't believe her, so he says, "Hooray." And she reaches back behind the tree and she pulls out and of course, the soldier stands there as she pulls out, it's a gi. That's what people that perform and practice martial arts wears a gi. So she pulls out a gi, and as you can see, Gilligan's helping her put it on as the soldier stands there. Even the soldier kind of helps her a little bit. And here, this would be unfortunately racially offensive. So I'm glad it just says yelling in Japanese instead of trying to figure out what he's trying to say, because it probably wouldn't pass very well with modern audiences, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So
Oiler
what's
Greg
that?
says he was going to put a stick in your wheelchair and run right past you to the victory. Yeah. And he also says it was cool that they brought the original actor back. It really helped
Yeah,
the
it is.
episode.
Yeah, and Vito Scotti was a very, very, very versatile actor. I've seen him play Italians and Hispanics and Germans and everything, and he really gets into the role. He did a lot of work back in the 60s and 70s, 80s. He lived for a while, but very, very, very talented man. And obviously, with the name Vito Scotti, he was actually an Italian. So here we have with Ginger taking on the Japanese soldier. Oh, or at least we have the stunt woman and stunt man, but oh well, who's looking?
I didn't even catch it. Can you go back a second? Oh, wait.
Uh-huh.
I,
This part?
oh, yeah, that is a different person, ain't it? Those are
Of
two
course,
different people.
of
I
course.
didn't even catch that. I didn't even catch that.
In fact, the Japanese soldier, you could tell, is even a lot bigger guy than Vito Scotti. Vito Scotti was a little short guy. Like that's supposed to be Ginger. And now we cut the actual actress as Ginger gives him a judo chop in the back of the neck. And she says so much for him.
Yeah.
He says, "Thank you, Ginger. I mean, 37, 25, 36. You were great."
Yeah.
And she says,
Oiler
"Oh,
Greg
thanks,
says
Gilligan."
that versatile acting would not be allowed now.
No, it would not, which is really ridiculous. And now she says, "I've got to free the others. I shall return." And of course, we fade out back to Gilligan listening to her talk. And after you ran off into the jungle, and she continues, I haven't got into that part yet. He asked her about the rescue. She says she hasn't got into that part yet, which means they haven't even been rescued, so there is no part. So obviously, she's also exaggerating. Are there
Oh,
any chats?
yeah.
I'm gonna
Oil
grab
Greg
something to
says
drink
that.
if you want to. Yeah, cover the chats if you can. I'm gonna grab something to drink.
Yeah. Oil Greg says, I bet Ginger enjoyed this episode. Oh yeah. It's kind of fun. It was really funny. Funny, don't get me wrong, that they all decided to do the Japanese story. But I think it would have been cool if they all wrote different stories there, and they did flashbacks of something that's totally, completely exaggerated of
Well, they could
different
have.
stories.
Oh, you mean stories that we have not seen yet?
No, stories we see, but they're completely exaggerated. That we know that they're BS. They're all recounting the Japanese story of their own way of remembering it. Like I get the
Right.
point of the joke, but I think it'd be really funny too if they all wrote different stories and had it so damn exaggerated. We know that's not what exactly happened.
Right, but then
When
if
they're
you had
writing
to
it.
compare what one person's saying to another, right?
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me. If you had to compare what one person's saying against another, I don't think you'd be able to do that in 30 minutes. And then
Yeah, it'd
plus,
be
if you
really
had guest
hard.
stars, yeah, and if you had guest stars in those other episodes, that'd probably take them way over budget and time. Because remember, they had to shoot this in like 5 days.
Oh, is that a lot in Hollywood?
Yeah, back then they'd have to get up like for the women, it was worse. They'd have to get up like 3 in the morning to get to the studio, and they would spend like a couple hours just to get their makeup on. Then they would be on the set until like 6 or 7 p.m. And that's 5 days a week. They would get the weekends off. Ola Greg says, I bet Ginger enjoyed this episode. And Ola Greg, stories we haven't seen before would have been great. Yeah, you're right, Ola Greg. But then, like I said, if it was stories we haven't seen before, if they all tell different stories, then us as the audience, we're going to be confused because we won't know that they're exaggerating unless we see 5 different versions of the same story, I'm guessing. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And Ola Greg says, like 5 episodes in one. Well, that's
Yeah,
what
they
they call
could. They could.
those. Go ahead.
They could have probably done it, but it probably wouldn't have been. But then you wouldn't have the comedy aspect of it either, I guess.
Possibly, but I think it
Now that
might
I
be a
think
little
about,
confusing.
now that I think about it,
Yeah. Okay, so and Gilligan asks her about them getting rescued, and she says, "I haven't gotten to that part yet, Gilligan." Okay, Ginger. Thanks a lot, Ginger. He says. And here's Marianne running in. Everybody, look! I found it! I found it! It can't be. He threw it into the lagoon. And when Marianne says, "Oh, the tide must have washed it back." And I thought this was odd. So it's like, okay, so what? The book he threw it in the water, tide washed it back, and it's still in one solid piece.
yeah. You know what? I think would have been really funny though, is once he threw it into the lagoon there,
Uh
all
huh.
6 of them would have just went swimming after it.
Oh, that's true.
That would have been really funny.
But in my opinion, I think what they should have done is Marianne should have said, "Yeah, I was walking over on the other side of the lagoon and I found it. He didn't. It didn't land in the water." That's what I wish she would have said. I think that'd have been a little more believable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the books back then were made with this recycled shit that falls apart as soon as it gets wet. This was actual solid paper.
Yeah, but even paper dissolves in water. Regular
Well,
paper
no,
dissolves in water.
it would have been wet, but I don't think it was dissolved that fast.
Well, yeah, you never know, I guess. So, and then Marianne says, "Oh, the tide must have washed it back." What's that miserable wretch have to say about this? Says Mr. Howell. I'll hear that too. You better read it, dear. So they all want to hear it. And this, excuse me, Marianne says, "I'm on the island," and she's reading Gilligan's diary. "I'm on the island with Mr. Thurston Howell III. I don't have to say who he is because he's so rich that everybody knows him. And of course, them two love to hear that. Stoke their ego. He treats me like I'm just as good as he is, which shows what a wonderful person he is," says Marianne. And his wife, Mrs. Howell, when they made up the word lady, that's who they were talking about. And of course, Mrs. Howell loves to hear that too. And she continues, the skipper, well, he proved what a captain should be. He piloted the ship and he kept us all safe. And I wouldn't be writing this if it weren't for him. And she says, well, there is more. Would you like me to continue it? And she sets the book down and says, you can all read it if you'd like. And then as she does that, they all feel bad about what happened because, of course, they were all suspicioning bad things. But Gilligan comes in and says, hi, everybody's still mad at me. And, of course, like, no, 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 oh, Gilligan, little buddy, little buddy. And, of course, they're all suddenly being very nice. But he says, a while ago, you told me, and I said, Skipper, why don't you give Gilligan a chair? Of course, Gilligan, sit down, says the skipper. And of course, Mr. Howell, Gilligan, my boy, I'd like you to accept my humble apologies. And of course, Gilligan, oh well, you're going to apologize to me, Mr. Howell? Would you like some coconut juice, Gilligan? Says Ginger. Thank you. Oh, my diary, as he sees the diary on the table. Oh, gee, I'd like to write all this down in my diary, he says. And then later on, we have that night, and we have the Howell sneak into the campfire. And apparently, Mr. Howell is disposing of his version of the diary.
Yeah. Well, we missed a very good point though that they made here. That they're all saying that they're all seeing like the Japanese story from their perspective, and made themselves the heroes. But yeah, Gilligan just saw it for what it was.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's why I feel bad about when I have to show slides. It misses a lot. So thank you, Gorilla.
Yeah.
So Mr. Howell throws his copy of his diary in the fire, and as soon as him and Mrs. Howell leave, here comes Ginger, and she throws her and Marianne throw Ginger's copy of the diary into the fire, and here we have the skipper with his copy of the diary, and Skipper decided to have a seat, and as he does that, here's Gilligan with the book, and Gilligan gets ready to throw the book in the fire. And they immediately all get excited and shout. Even the professor comes running around the corner. No, don't. Oh, not that one. We won't.
Oh, I got about 5 seconds. I got about 20 seconds ahead of myself on this.
Oh, okay. And then Gilligan's quite confused. He doesn't know what they're saying. Let me try Gilligan. What's he trying to say is that the book means more to us than it does to you. So they're telling Gilligan, they're pleading with him not to burn the book. And he said, the Boy Scouts guide through New Jersey, he says. And they're surprised. Oh, and they asked, isn't it your diary? And he says, oh, no, I hid that. And they said, good. And he said, and someday I'll remember where I hid it. And as you can see, they all just get frustrated and leave. And he throws the book into the fire. And he walks over and bends over, and we get a shot of the diary in his back pocket again.
Yeah. That's not the view I want. It's the wrong gender.
Wrong gender.
Yeah. Oiler Greg said, good point, Pop. And Oiler Greg says, 60s technology was awesome.
It was practical, and the people really worked for what they did. I miss these good old days. And with the horrible things that's coming out of Hollywood now, I'm not even interested to see what they make anymore. I was just reading today, or I was watching videos on YouTube of the movies that are coming out, and it's like they all sound terrible. Like they're just getting worse and worse. So I have plenty of the old classics, movies and TV shows to keep me busy for as long as I'm here on this mortal coil. So here we are with our ending credits. 7 stranded castaways here on Gilligan's Isle. All right. So we've just completed our first episode, which was Diogenes, won't you please go home? So now we're going to cover. Let me go back here because I'm kind of looking through these.
It's something physical fatness or something like that.
Physical fatness. Thank you. Physical fatness is the next one we're covering, which is season 1, episode 32. And it looks like Sorry, you're cutting
all I
out.
was going to say is that title would not fly nowadays.
No, no,
So
no,
so
no,
would
no.
find offense to
I guess
it.
they would call it shaming. Everybody would find offense. That's all they do now is look for reasons to be offended.
No,
Okay, so
though I do got one issue with
go
this.
ahead.
This is just me overanalyzing and overthinking this shit, like I tend to do. But
Okay.
them being on the island with only fruits, vegetables, and fish, Skipper should have lost a lot of weight in that. However long they've been on that island, he should have lost a lot of weight just by
I know
eating
you.
fruits,
Yeah, you would
vegetables,
think,
and
huh?
fish. I'm not nip.
Exactly, right?
I'm not tearing down the episode for that, but I'm just saying this episode's almost irrelevant. This because he should have lost
Well,
that
what about
weight
this?
from just
Right,
the diet alone.
right. All right, but let me just give you one example of something they eat that might make them fat. How about coconut cream pie?
Oh yeah, maybe, but I don't think
Uh huh.
Skipper eats that much to make that much of a difference there. Then also, I thought it was pretty funny that he wants to join the Navy again. Yet he's probably too old to be in the Navy unless he's actually an actual upper echelon officer.
Right, unless you're in the reserves, but I don't know what the age was back then. But the last I heard, I'm not sure about the Navy, but like I was in the Air Force and I heard that it was like 40, something like that, early 40s to be. And if you don't get in there by then, it's too late. I
Oh,
don't know what it
Skipper's
was
way
back in
past
the
the
60s.
40s.
Oh, he is. And Gilligan's
Yeah,
probably in his 20s, I'm guessing, maybe the character. Even though Bob Denver was probably in his 30s when he made this, but the character,
no,
Gilligan, I think
I
is maybe
think.
in his.
Well, was it Gilligan in World War II with the Skipper?
Well, with the skipper, when he had that episode where he was quoting World War II when they were under attack, they didn't necessarily say if Gilligan was on the ship with him during that scene. But
No, but he,
the other episode where Gilligan was on the ship and he saved Skipper's life, we don't know if that happened during the war. Not it could have been after.
oh yeah, but I thought like the Navy cutoff was like 35 or something like that. I know that's the draft cutoff
Oh, that's possible.
because I was watching that. I made sure to look that up here with current events.
Okay.
Yeah, damn it, I
So
screwed up when I had my son.
that happens. Now you know
well,
there's no reason you don't want to go in because you want to always be able to go home to your son anyway.
no. Before my son was born, I couldn't be drafted.
Could or could not.
Could not.
Why?
I I'm the last of the family line for the
Oh, yep,
name.
that's a good reason. Well, plus you do have to pass a physical.
With the way things are going, they won't give a shit about that.
Yes, they do. If you've got the wrong thing hanging down there, they may not let you in anymore. Maybe
No. I'm talking about
stick it
I
between
thought
your
you were
legs,
talking.
maybe.
No,
Sorry, go
they
ahead.
actually said that. They actually came out and said they flat out said even if you claim to be a trans female, I think it'd be or whatever,
Uh huh.
you'll still be drafted. It's what you're born with. You'll still get drafted. You can't dodge the draft that way. They said they will still draft you.
Right, that's a draft. But I'm saying if you go and enlist voluntarily, I'm saying that you'll have a physical. Because I had to go through a physical when I went in.
Yeah. No, I was strictly
If
talking
I'd
the
have been too
draft.
heavy, right? If I'd have been well, there's no draft and there's not going to be. But if you or if you go in and you're not, if there's something that isn't right during the physical, you can't get in. And by the way, even when there was a draft, certain people even still failed the physicals and were not let in. The famous World War II hero Audie Murphy was turned down several times because they said he was too short.
Yeah, well, I had to spend a weekend in jail there. I was in there with this old guy who got thrown in there because he refused to take the extra layer of shingles or something off his roof or something real fucking stupid. And he was a real short guy. They said the reason he was actually in World War II there, and he really wanted to get in there, and they were refusing because he's too short and underweight. Well, the sergeant goes, "You really want to join up? You really want to go over?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." So I picked him up and goes, "Now you met. Now measure how tall he is." Then he goes, I think he's like 180 pounds or something like that. so, so they lied to get him back onto it.
Well, maybe
Get
there's
him,
no
they
check and
let him
balance
in.
there. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so now we're going to cover Physical Fatness, Season 1, Episode 32. And this episode aired May 8th, 1965. The professor makes a die marker to help get rescued. The skipper plans to join the Navy when they get home, but he finds out he must lose weight to meet their requirements. And Gilligan finds out that he must gain weight too. Okay, so here we go. Let me get everything ready to go. And I hope you guys in the chat are still awake, hopefully. So we have
No,
our
Euler
opening.
is because he said Buffy bots will defend us soon, us all.
There you go. And we have our introduction. They're heading off for the 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
And we have our introduction to the cast. And of course, Sherwood Schwartz, and produced by Jack Arnold. And we have a gourd. And we have the professor doing experiments. And Gilligan comes in his hut, which actually, of course, doubles as Gilligan and Skipper's hut, which doubles as Howell's hut, which doubles as the girl's hut. But who's noticing? And Gilligan comes in and loudly says, "Hello, Professor," and makes the professor jump. And Gilligan says, "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. You're awful nervous." And Mr. Howell, the professor says, "And you startled me." "Oh," says Gilligan. And he steps around behind the professor and shouts in his ear again, startling him again. And he says, "See, you're nervous. You jumped even when you knew I was here." And Gilligan says, "I remember when I did an experiment in school. I'll never forget it. I mixed some ammonia with some acid. And I was expelled. They thought the school was going to burn down. I wonder, many kinds of acids are highly combustible," says the professor. And Gilligan says, "Not only that, they can start a fire." And he says, "It is, Gilligan. You've seen the dye markers the Navy uses as distress signals." And he says, "The yellow stuff that floats?" And he says, "Yes, that's right." And he says, "And I believe I've succeeded in duplicating the Navy formula. I believe it." Here we go, next one. "And I'm even adding a phosphorescent compound to the dye to enable it to glow in the dark." And Gilligan says, "It looks like shiny junk." And Professor says, "Yes, that's it. When I add that shiny junk, as you call it," he says, "planes flying nearby will see it day or night. They'll follow it here and will be rescued." And Gilligan gets excited and says, "I'll go tell the others." "Oh boy." And he places the bowl on the table and then runs out. "Oh no, what's the name of that stuff?" "Potassium chromate." I got to be careful about repeating this. Last time I repeated one of the professor's recipes, I got a copyright warning. So for those of you guys listening, I'll leave it up to you guys to read the text. I'll leave it up there a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know why it gets a copyright strike or warning if I read that. Maybe the recipe itself is copyrighted. Who knows? But anyway, that's the recipe supposedly for a dye marker.
Yeah. Oh, we got quite a few chats here.
Okay.
Greg says 32 episodes. Now they're making 8 episodes a season. Yeah, I know it's a bunch of bullshit.
Right, exactly. And they're paying the people way too much more than what they're worth.
Yeah. And Herc says, "Oh yes, that physical at MEPS. Can't forget that one."
Military Entrance Processing Station. Yes, that's exactly where I was too.
You get the old finger right up.
No, all they do is have you bend over and they take a very close look. Just don't fart in their face when they do it, or you'll probably get in trouble. But they did. They did. Let's just say they did check to see if you had a hernia. They do that. And the professor says, "Go ahead."
Greg says, so 3 years equals 10 years of some modern series. pretty
Yeah, it's
much.
too bad. Yeah, because you're right. 8 or 10
No,
episodes if you're lucky. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, besides says, Gord's the reason I watch any sitcom.
Exactly, right. Gourds and coconuts. So Gilligan asks, "What is that stuff?" And he says, "Potassium." He starts to repeat the recipe, and of course, Gilligan doesn't know what any of that means, so he just says, "Shiny junk." The professor says, "Shiny junk." Yeah, and he smiles. And then Professor continues with his experiment, and Gilligan runs away to tell everybody. And here he is running up to his and Skipper's hut. Skipper, Skipper, hey Skipper, what's all the excitement? Says the Skipper. Gilligan says the professor is experimenting with chemicals he found right here. And what happened to you? He says to the Skipper. And the Skipper says, I had a small accident. And he said he bent over and his pants ripped. So Marianne is sewing it up. What's the good news? Gilligan said the professor is working on a dye marker, and you're getting too fat. And of course, Skipper says, I'm not. He says, you can really see it at night, says the Skipper. He knows what they are. Skipper tells him about the glow in the dark. Gilligan, sorry, it's skipping over lines, but Gilligan tells him that they're making a dye marker pretty much, and it's going to glow in the dark. But then he reminds the Skipper that he's fat, and the Skipper says, cut that out, Gilligan. With a thing like this, we could possibly be rescued. Oh boy. You can't even say oh boy now. Wow. Besides standing at the unemployment, and then Gilligan says, "What are you going to do when we get rescued? Besides standing at the unemployment office?" And Skipper says, "Honestly, I haven't even thought about it. With the boat wrecked, I guess I'm out of business." And of course, we'll find out about that later on in Rescue from Gilligan's Island. 15 years later for them, 14 years. Okay, you go in the Navy, I'll go too, says Gilligan. I had no idea that you felt that way, says Skipper. He says, well, Skipper, you're my buddy and my pal and shipmate, says Gilligan. And of course, that means a lot, Skipper. And Skipper says, oh, here's Marianne. Haha, Marianne. And she hands Skipper his pants. He goes in to change. Oh, there he is. He goes to hide because he's wearing a towel. And here comes Marianne with the pants. And she says, unfortunately, once again, the text is wrong. It's not I let them. It's I let them out 2 inches. Just like you asked me to, Skipper. And Skipper said, did you hear we're going to be rescued? And no, she says, rescued? Oh, are you sure, Gilligan? Are you 100% completely, absolutely, positively certain? And then Gilligan says, I'm not even that certain. My name is Gilligan. Oh, that's wonderful. I'll go tell the others, says Marianne. And the Skipper gets his pants on and comes back outside with the banana. And then Gilligan immediately says, maybe she should have left out 4 inches instead of 2. Let out 4 inches instead of 2. And then Skipper says, she only let them out. Well, all right, 2 inches, says Skipper. Or Gilligan. She only let them out. I'm sorry. Okay, Skipper, see you later, says Gilligan. For goodness sake, says Skipper. And he tries to eat the banana, and unfortunately it breaks and falls to the ground. And Skipper bends over to pick it up, and his pants rip again. And Mrs. Howell is standing at the door of the kitchen for some reason, saying, red cab, red cab. And Mr. Howell, Lovey, you keep forgetting we're on a deserted island. There aren't any red cabs. There's only Gilligan. Oh, yes, of course, Gilligan. White cab, white cab. Gilligan, would you mind helping us with these bags as Gilligan comes in? Certainly, Mr. Howell. And be careful of the large ones, says Mrs. Howell. Something frightfully expensive in it. And Gilligan says, what's that? Mr. Howell says, money. And Gilligan says, I'll be careful. Here, there you go. Go ahead.
Careful to go hide that briefcase somewhere, just for where only I know where it's at.
I know, right? Well, good thing they know they can trust Gilligan. They probably wouldn't be able to trust anybody else. And Mr. Howell says, here, there you go, as he hands the luggage to Gilligan. And Mrs. Howell says, oh, poor Gilligan. And Mr. Howell says, no, he's a hardy fellow. And Gilligan turns around and says, whoop, Mr. Howell, Mr. Howell. And he said, yes, what is it? You folks going on a trip? And Mr. Howell, a trip? Don't be silly. We're being rescued. We're working on a scheme to get off this island. Surely we haven't been shipwrecked before we even start, she says. And he says, the professor's still in. She said, he is. She said, yeah, he mixes the shiny junk with some other stuff. Once it's all squishy, he adds some more goop. and he heats it up and pours one mess into another. And then we cut back into the professor's hut with Skipper. And Professor's telling Skipper, "Don't let me interrupt. I just wanted." Skipper says, "Don't let me interrupt. I just wanted to use your scale." He says, "Help yourself, Skipper." "I just think it's near genius," says Skipper. "No, just lucky to find the chemical," says the professor. "No, but a fellow likes to keep in shape." So Skipper wants to weigh himself on the professor's scale. And the professor reminds him, by the way, that scale only goes to 200 pounds. And of course, that's the look on Skipper's face when he says that, and he says, "Thanks." As Gilligan enters, "Skipper, I cleaned up the other scale, a big one by the big one by the fire." And Skipper says, "Gilligan, we use that to weigh the fish. If you don't mind, I'll use the professor's scale." And now they have the Navy guide, and Gilligan says, "I thought you'd like to see this," which are the requirements of the Navy. So Skipper's rattling through the pages, and he says, "Now it's in here somewhere. This Navy manual will tell me how much I should weigh." "Maybe it's under tonnage," says Gilligan. And of course, Skipper doesn't like that remark. And Skipper says, "Oh, here we are. There, 6'3". That scale only goes up," and he says, "I know, only 200 pounds. Therefore, I have nothing to worry about." And by the way, this text coming up, I did get in and fix because I did not want it to be wrong. So what we're getting ready to see here, I actually had to go in and fix because it had the wrong word in. So Skipper hands Gilligan the book, and then he hands Gilligan his hat, and then he takes off his father's ring, hands out to Gilligan. Then he proceeds to the scale. As we see, the scale goes up to 200 pounds. And when the professor sits in it, as you can see, the scale starts spinning, and the rocks fall on Skipper's foot. And the spring pops out. And this is where I had to fix it. So Gilligan says, "Ha ha, tilt." I had to fix that because in the text it said tail, which made no sense. So when Gilligan says tilt, he's referring to a pinball game.
Yeah, because in pinball there, didn't they have like buzzers that automatically stop the little things from the flippers from flipping if they
Yes,
felt like the machine was being tilted?
right. If you shake or move there was a balance inside called an equilibrium inside the machines. And if you shake the machine too much, it'll tilt the game, which basically turns up and cuts the power to it. And when that happens, you've got to put in more money. So that's their discouragement to try to keep people from cheating. So here they are by the fish scale, and he says, "Okay, Skipper, it's all set. Have a seat." And then Skipper says, "I'll do." He says, "Come on." I can't remember exactly what Skipper says, but Gilligan says, "Come on, we've weighed bigger fish than you." "All right, step aside," says Skipper. And Skipper sits on the basket. And as you can see, the scale clearly says about 220 pounds.
Yeah.
And Gilligan gets excited. Go ahead.
Now I gotta say they must have built ropes a lot better than they do nowadays.
Well, those may have been ropes off the boat.
Yeah, but they must have been way better built than what we build nowadays. Those ropes nowadays would not have held that.
No, nowadays you'd have to buy those nylon ropes. So the ones that are made like the one Skipper has, right now they're made like they're cheap. So if you want one that's really strong, you have to get those yellow nylon ones. I think they're in yellow and blue. So Gilligan gets excited when he sees the scale, and Skipper, seeing Gilligan, gets excited. And Skipper gets excited. He says, "Wow, what does it say?" And Gilligan says, "You're in between a largemouth bass and a hammerhead shark." And of course, Skipper says, "Never mind that, Gilligan. How much do I weigh?" "Skipper, you'll never get in the Navy," says Gilligan. And he says, "Skipper's got to go on a diet." And he says, "I do?" And he says, "Yeah."
Yeah, he's
Professor,
221 pounds.
right. So he's 20 or 21 pounds overweight. And Professor, "Oh, there you are, Skipper." Here comes Professor. "I'll need a special wrap to release the marker out to sea," he says. He said, and then Skipper, of course, says, "You design it, I'll build it." And Gilligan says he needs the exercise. My little buddy said that. And Skipper says, I'll be finished in a week. For that, in a week, we'll be rescued, says the professor. And Skipper's thinking, and he says, I'm thinking, Gilligan, I've got to lose more than 22 pounds in less than a week if we want to join the Navy. Of course, that's not physically possible, but oh well. And Gilligan says, you'll have to go on a crash diet. And Skipper says, don't let me have anything to eat. You understand? Nothing. And he said, you can depend on me, Skipper. And as he hears that, as he says that, they can hear a bell. And Gilligan says, time for dinner. Come on, let's go. Of course, that didn't work. The first thing Gilligan did was offer him food. So here we are at the dinner table, and they're all sitting around it. Gilligan says, so he hands a plate to Skipper, and Skipper gets all excited, and then Gilligan says, that's Ginger's. Pass it down. So Skipper passes the plate down to Ginger, and then now the professor hands another plate to Skipper. And once again, Skipper's all excited. And then Gilligan said, that's Mary Ann's. Pass it down, of course. Here's your Skipper. Of course, Skipper, oh, now, wait a minute. Didn't you forget something? There's only a measly piece of lettuce on the plate. And the Gilligan says, oh, yeah, your spoon. And he gives him a spoon. It's enough food for an overgrown man. Well, that's not right. It's actually said it's not enough food for an overgrown man. No, Gilligan says it's enough food for an overgrown man. That's right. Sorry. Hard to tell with these texts unless who's talking. And Skipper says, I'll just go read to take my mind off the food. Hey, Skipper, says Gilligan. He says, yes. Don't go too far. It's your turn to wash the dishes. Well, there's one dish I won't have to wash, says the Skipper. So he eats the lettuce and gives them back the plate.
Yeah. So the professor come up with some kind of soap for the plates?
Possibly so.
Okay.
Well, because they have to go to take baths and wash their hair too. So I'm guessing, yeah, he probably invented some sort of soap and or shampoo or body wash. So now we have later on in the Gilligan and Skipper's hut, and they're going to bed. And Gilligan says to Skipper, good night, sleep tight. And Skipper says, sleep tight. And Skipper says, it's all right for you to say that because you're not starving. Just forget about it and go to sleep, says Gilligan. I've tried to go to sleep. I've tried counting sheep, but they all turn into lamb chops. Boy, I'm hungry. We got to get your mind off food, says Gilligan. Let's talk about being rescued. Luckily, we've got the professor. He's a smart cookie, says Gilligan. Cookie, says Skipper. Well, I mean, he knows his onions, says Gilligan. And Skipper says, if you don't shut up, I'm going to bend you like a pretzel. Now, see what you've done? You've got me doing it to me. See what you've done? You've got me doing it to me. Well, sorry, the text is off. Yeah. Let me go to the next one.
Now, I'm sorry. Do you think Gilligan was doing that on purpose there to piss Skipper off, or is he just not thinking it?
Yeah, I know exactly, right? That's what we wonder sometimes. Yeah. So Gilligan says, I'm sorry. Every time I try to help, I end up a dead duck. Yeah. And of course, it doesn't help Skipper any.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say here is we know that Gilligan's pretty damn smart because he's proven it in quite a few episodes. So halftime, you wonder if he just does that, like this, for example, he does it just to piss the Skipper off.
Right, which I would not be surprised. So here we have later on that evening, and as Gilligan is snoring, Skipper's still awake, and Skipper decides to sneak out. And as he starts walking out, his leg has a vine attached to it. And without realizing it, he tugs on his leg, which knocks Gilligan out of the hammock because Gilligan has the other end of the vine tied to his leg. And Skipper just realizes what he did. Let me try to cut this here. And then now we cut to later where they're back in bed. Here we are. And Skipper says, Gilligan, And Gilligan's hand falls and it lands on the skipper's face.
Yeah. See, I would have done this scene a little bit differently.
Oh,
So
really?
instead of cutting the vine there, oh, had him just yank on the vine, causing Gilligan to flip out of the damn thing backwards there to the point where Gilligan just says screw it and takes the vine off himself.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. But I think
That
Gilligan's a little
was
more determined than that.
yeah, because I think that would have been funnier. I mean, that's pretty funny the way it was, you know. But I think it'd been pretty funny just to have a Skipper purposely flip him out of bed like 2 or 3 times, like he was tossing and turning until finally Gilligan gives up on the vine and just takes it off.
Exactly. So Skipper puts Gilligan's hand back up on the hammock, and he decides he's going to sneak out again. So he pulls out his pocket knife and decides to cut the vine. And here he is quietly sneaking out while Gilligan's asleep. And here's where he sneaks over to the professor's hut. And now for a nice midnight snack, he says to himself in front of the food locker. And he opens the door and says Gilligan.
Now I noticed something with this scene here. Yeah, with Gilligan, he was barely out of breath when Skipper opened the door, like he just ran over there.
Yes, he did. Right. Right. He's faster than the skipper. Now we cut to the next day. We work good together, huh? Says Gilligan. And Skipper says, yeah. Well, not exactly, Gilligan. See, we won't be working on rafts in the Navy. Gilligan says, we'll be working on rafts when we get in the Navy. And he says, no, we won't be working on rafts in the Navy. They've got rafts where you push a button. And speaking of he says they blows up like a big balloon. And he says, speaking of big balloons, it's time for your exercise, says Gilligan. And he says, Gilligan, you sure have a way of making a fellow feel good. He says, right, if I run those, and then Skipper says, if I run those 10 laps, I'll lose some of mine. And Gilligan says, some of what? And Skipper says, my lap. And Gilligan doesn't get it, of course. Oh, never mind, Gilligan. Well, here I go. So the skipper apparently is going to run off to do some laps.
I seriously doubt Skipper can run 10 laps around the island.
Right, around the entire island.
Well, like, did they establish that? Did they establish the entire island, or did he just make a lap around? Was he just supposed to make like a lap around the pass there?
Well, he tells them around the island.
Oh, I couldn't tell if them. Yeah, because I couldn't tell if they were meant the whole island or just like a big circle around the paths that make a circle.
Oh, I don't know. So here he is we have Ginger just relaxing, and he's exhausted, and he comes and sits down, and she says, "Oh, hi, Skipper," and he's out of breath, and he says, "Hello, Ginger," and she says, "Oh, you're just in time for your exercise." He says, "Exercise? I just ran 10 laps around the island." And she says, "These are the exercises the movie stars do in Hollywood, to reduce the waist and hips and so forth." And Skipper said, "That's where I need it, around the waist, hips, and my so forth." And she says, "Okay, come on, here we go. Now, hands on hips. Chest out," she says. Head way back. And of course, there's Skipper. "This is very good for your figure, Skipper." "Oh, believe me, Ginger, mine will never look like yours," he says. And she says, "This is guaranteed to slim down your waist." Here we go now.
They're facing the wrong way. She's facing the wrong way.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Have her turn around.
Oh, yeah. But they're not going to do that.
Yeah,
come on, Skipper, do it. It's very easy. So I think she's doing a hula dance. So she says, "Come on, Skipper, do it. It's very easy." So he gives it a try.
I thought he was doing. She was doing a belly dance.
Nope, a belly dance is different. It's where it's hard to explain it verbally, but if you look it up, it's different. It's just like doing the hula, she says. "Ginger, I can't do that," he says. "Come on, you want to get back in the Navy, right?" she says. Yes, but I wasn't thinking about joining the waves, he said. And of course, he laughs at his own joke. And here we are at the house. Oh, isn't that lovely, says Mrs. Howe. I don't get what he's saying, says Mr. Howe. But with her, I do get the message. Of course. Sorry, Skipper, but you're not on the guest list. Apparently, he was heading to the house, and they say he's not on the guest list. Oh, Skipper, I found these reducing pills, says Mrs. Howe. You take one every time you're hungry, she says. And she hands the pills to Skipper, and Mr. Howe says, Good, come, Lovey, darling. Thanks a lot, says the Skipper. Reducing pills. And of course, he swallows a bunch of them. I don't think shut these days, so right, just a little warning, kids, don't try that at home. Don't try taking several diet pills at once. So we cut to the weight, the scale, and it looks like it's at about between 2.5 and 2.10.
I thought he was at 201 because you need to
Skipper,
lose 2 more pounds.
no, it was 22 pounds. So
Yeah,
we're
no, but
assuming
I
at
thought
this point he's lost 20 pounds.
yeah. Then
Sorry,
he
go
had
ahead.
2 more pounds to go. Yeah, he had 2 more pounds to go.
Right, right. It was at right. He's lost, which means he has right. He's lost 20, which means he has two more to go. Is that right or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So Gilligan says, Skipper, hold still. And Skipper says, oh, Gilligan says, hold still. I can't read the scale. As you can see, it's barely over 200. So he has lost weight. And the professor's explaining to them because the phosphorescent dye. So he's asking them, are they almost ready to build the raft? He said, because the phosphorescent dye is almost finished.
Now, why was it so urgent to have the raft done at the exact same time as the dye?
Well, because they're excited to leave the island, I'm thinking. I don't think, I think what the way they want to, without saying the actual words, is they want the raft to be ready when they get to Thai so they can immediately set it out to sail to notify the Navy instead of saying, well, here's the dye. Now let's just sit around and wait till Skipper loses weight. I don't think they want to do that. So, hot dog. Skipper is excited when he hears how much he weighs. Gilligan. So now Gilligan's reading the book again. He says, you got to lose 2 more pounds to get into the Navy, he tells the skipper. Let me see that book, says Skipper. And here you go, says Gilligan, and hands him the book. He says, well, you satisfied? And Skipper says, yeah. And then Skipper notices something. And he says, what's the matter? And then Skipper says, the scale. What's the matter with it, says Gilligan. And then Skipper says, even if I can get in, you can't because you're underweight. And Gilligan says, underweight? And there it is, 125 pounds apparently. Do you remember how much they said he has to weigh to get in? Or how much he has to gain?
I'm guessing 130.
30?
Because
Yeah, I feel terrible because this
he has to gain 5 pounds.
right before I was getting ready with training, this episode of kind of missed things I was in. But basically, yeah, Gilligan to gain weight, and Skipper only has 2 pounds left to lose.
Yeah, Gilligan has to gain 5.
Now, open up Gilligan, and we have now scale. There, just 2 more spoonfuls, and it'll all be gone, says Mrs. Howe. Keep eating, Gilligan. And he says, Mrs. Howe, you know what? You have to eat if you want to join the river, she says. But Mrs. Howe, you have to gain 5 more pounds in 2 days, she says. Or is it 2 pounds in 5 days? Well, any case, keep eating. And he says, this is the third meal I've had today, and it's not even lunch yet. And she says, remind me of when my nanny fed me. It was so embarrassing. Oh, Mr. Howe comes in and says, remind me of when my nanny fed me. It was so embarrassing. And she said, why? And he said, it was my senior year at Harvard, he said. How's Operation Gluttony coming? He asked her. And she said, I see the boys gained 3/4 pounds. I sure hope so, because I can't eat another bite, he says. And then Skipper says, why don't you come and help me build the raft? Oh, no, Skipper, he mustn't have any exercise at all, says Mrs. Howe. That's out of the question, says Mr. Howe. But Mrs. Howell, no, Gilligan, if you work, you're liable to perspire. And if you perspire, you're liable to lose weight. She said, isn't that true, Lubby? Isn't that true, Thurston? And he said, well, I don't know. I've never perspired. Of course, it wasn't like a,
Wrong. He's perspired in 2 episodes that he bragged about.
I know. Oh, that smells. Well, I think it was just basically bragging, saying he's never done labor or work, but he's even done that when
Yeah.
the chips are down. So here we have the girls cooking, and Ginger brings in a dish, and Marianne says, "Ooh, that smells good." Mmm. And Ginger says, "It's my turn to feed him." And Marianne says, "I know, but she says, why don't we both feed him?" She says, "Okay, good idea." Turn a little string bean into a jolly green giant, and we have Gilligan eating bananas, and Skipper working on the raft. And of course, Skipper's saying, "Oh, Gilligan, I don't think I can hold out much longer." He says, "I'm dreaming of top sirloin, French fried potatoes, mushroom sauce." And as he says that, here come the girls with food. And they put the plates in front of Gilligan. And they say it's crab and pineapple. And of course, that breaks Skipper's heart. Just a sec. I guess
Oh, God, this was a dick move here. Dick move. Saying that and feeding him in front of the Skipper. That is such a dick move. Oh, pop culture must be fixing something there.
There we go.
Is there any? Don't worry, you're at all that
So poor
stuff.
Skipper.
Yeah.
And Skipper puts nails in his mouth. And Gilligan says, "Oh, Skipper, I saw you put something in your mouth." Gilligan, for your information, these are nails. And then Gilligan actually thinks about it for a second. Skipper actually thinks about it for a second and then sucks on the nails. And Gilligan,
Yeah.
Ginger, go ahead.
I was saying this was such a dick move. They're bragging about what food they're bringing Gilligan, then they're feeding him right in front of the Skipper. That's such a dick move.
It is. Spoonful of crab. Well, Gilligan's there because he has to keep an eye on Skipper to make sure he keeps working on the raft. And I'm guessing Skipper has to be there to make sure Gilligan gets fat. So Ginger says spoonful of crab, and Marianne says spoonful of pineapple, and they start feeding him, taking turns feeding him. And we have the Skipper watching. "Must you feed him in front of me?" says the Skipper. And Marianne, Ginger, sorry, says, "Oh no, Skipper, we can go someplace else." "Oh
Yeah.
no, that's all right. At least I can smell the food," says the Skipper.
Yeah. They must have a very, very large crab population to fill that bowl full of crab.
Maybe I'm guessing. I've never hunted down crabs before, but maybe inside the lagoon is where they do a lot of their fishing. I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
that's one good thing.
Yeah,
They had the episode. Go ahead.
there would be crabs in that, but just think of how many crabs it'd take to fill that bowl. It had to be at least 50 crabs that'd take to fill that bowl like that.
You think it's just crab, or maybe it's mixed with something else? I don't know.
It has to be because that's a shit ton of crabs for one meal to take out for
It'd
one
probably be,
meal.
yeah, it'd probably be expensive. You had to buy it, I guess, right? And it's real.
Oh yeah.
Go
To get
ahead.
that much crab, that'd cost you well over $3,000.
Oh my God, that's why I don't eat crab.
Well,
I mean, even
well, if you
go ahead.
well the price really skyrocketed, but a 3 pound down box of cluster snow, I think it was a king or snow crabs, one of the two, for a 3 pound box is like went up to like $27 or 31, something like that.
Jeez, serious.
It might be it might be higher than that. That I'll check. I'll actually look the next time I go to Walmart here. I'll look at the. Oh, actually, I can probably look it up now. But
Now you're talking about the real. You're talking about not the imitation stuff. You were telling me about the imitation stuff a while back.
yeah, this is a real crab legs. It's a
Oh,
crab
I'm
legs.
glad. Yeah, that's way far above my pay scale. So we have Skipper saying, I mean, even though my stomach is unhappy, he basically says that his nose is happy because he gets to smell the food. And here we have the professor. "How are you doing, Gilligan?" And Gilligan says, "Well, I." And the girls continue spoonful of pineapple. And then Professor says, "Keep up the good work, girls. How's the raft coming, Skipper?" And unfortunately, Professor makes the mistake of setting the bowl of the phosphorus on the table.
Okay, for 32
The Skipper
ounces.
says, "Oh,
Oops, sorry. I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say for 32 ounces, it'll cost you $25 for Atlantic
2 pounds."
red crab. If you want snow crab for 24 ounces, there, it's $20.
All right, let me tell you. Let me ask you this: Is crab taste? Does it taste good if you eat it by itself with nothing else? You just cook it and eat it. No spices, no dipping sauce, nothing. Is it good?
Yeah, but I like my butter in it.
Okay, because I haven't had crab, but I tried lobster once and I thought it was very bitter with no flavor. And
Uh,
I haven't eaten it since. It just wasn't my thing.
it's got sprinkle it with paprika when you cook it. Sprinkle the
Yeah, but
top
the
of
thing, yeah,
it
but yeah,
like
my point is, if you have meat that has no flavor and you have to add stuff to make it taste good, then it's not worth buying the meat, especially if it's expensive. I can cook a steak and put nothing on it, and it's absolutely delicious. So that's what I'm talking about.
oh
I don't understand. It's like coffee. You have a lot of people who drink coffee, but they don't buy it unless they add a whole bunch of stuff in it at Starbucks, and then it's not really coffee anymore. And I'm wondering, like, okay, then what's the point in drinking coffee? I guess
yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
I don't know. I love the taste of lobster there, but I sprinkle the paprika on top to bring out more of the flavor. Then you dip it in salted butter.
Okay, so Professor asks Skipper, "How's the rap coming?" And Skipper says, "Oh, good. I'm almost finished with the dye." Well, good. Professor says, "Good, because I'm almost finished with the dye. Perhaps we can launch the marker tonight with a phosphorus compound." Now he's explaining about the compound again with the phosphorus. They're talking about loading up the dye onto the raft. And Professor explains it's even more effective in the dark. And of course, Skipper's talking about the raft. He says that is, and let's take a bite out of it. Well, that's right. He's not done with it with the with the dye yet. So he walks up to them at the table and says, "I could use a little help mixing the chemicals. Could you spare me one of these girls?" "Well, I've been," he says, "a spoonful of pineapples," said Marianne. "How about it, Ginger?" "Well, okay, Professor." So Ginger volunteers to help the professor mix the chemicals. And Marianne keeps shoveling, says Ginger, as her
Yeah,
and the professor go to work on the chemical. Go ahead.
that could have been a good job for Mrs. House since they're not doing nothing.
I know, but they don't usually get the house involved unless they're short on hand. I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, we did miss a critical part of the episode there where Mr. Howell was explaining how he can judge the people by what they're doing and all that. There, we made that comment about Ginger. There, it would have been so hilarious. There, they will just showed Mrs. Howell just smacking his chest like she completely just said that. Kind of like when you're looking at another woman there in front of your wife there. She should just smacked his chest there. Make it like a realistic marriage. Yeah. Like, don't be looking at other women now. But I think that, but you probably couldn't get away with that in '60s television. There, so apparently, I think pop culture is having an issue with one of his dogs there. So
I'm
he's just
back.
going
Yeah, I'm
okay
telling my
that.
dogs to please wait. I mean, I took them out just before I fed them, and I'm watching the clock. It's a little early.
Yeah. No, I was just saying when.
Problem is, when they get anxious like this, they try to walk. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
No, I was just saying.
So here we go. You can hear
When
me okay,
in
right?
that. Yeah, I was just saying, like like in one of the previous scenes there, will have been funny there when Mr. Howell's googling Ginger there when they're doing the waist belly dancing or whatever. If
Uh-huh.
Susie made that comment there, Mrs. Howell smacked him in the chest there. There as a like, I can't believe you said that. You're googly eyed other women now.
Well, she's not going to
You know what I
strike him, but
mean?
they could have added right. She's not going to strike him, but they could have added a joke. She's done that before in the past when she's got him remarking on the girls. So yeah, she could have said
Yeah,
something back.
yeah, but I didn't know
So
if we could get away with
that's what
that in
made,
'60s
leads me to
television.
believe. Well, no, and Jim Backus, who played Mr. Howell, was known for improvising a lot of his jokes. So even when they weren't in the script, he was known to just come up with stuff because he was a natural comedian. So I'm wondering if he might have improvised that line, and that's why Mrs. Howell didn't have a line in return, possibly. So
Oh, so that's good.
Professor and Ginger, what?
Could they get
What's
away
up?
with that in '60s television? Like he'd make that comment there, and then all of a sudden you get like a backhand to the chest,
There is
like a real wife
no.
would
Hold
do.
on. I've told you before, Gorilla. There's no violence in these shows. They're not going to have anybody
Oh,
striking anybody.
it wouldn't be really be violent. It'd just be like a wife like going, "Hey, now get your eyes off of that," kind of like strike. It wouldn't be like violent
Yeah, but they're
strike.
not
It'd
going to.
just be like,
Right. They're not going to do that because if she was to retaliate, it would be with a line, not with her hand. I'll put it that way. She's a
okay,
lady. She's a lady. She's not some 200-pound somebody at Walmart. So Mrs.
yeah,
Howell's a lady. So it'd probably take a lot for her to strike somebody with her hand. I'm guessing. Okay,
okay,
so
because I was
Ginger.
just okay. Let's just
Go
keep going.
ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I was just
So
gonna
Ginger
say it'd just be like
Professor.
a real. Oh, no, all right. Keep going. I'll be quiet.
So Ginger and Professor head off to start mixing the chemicals. And Marianne continues spoonful of crab, spoonful of pineapple. She's feeding him with each hand with the two dishes.
Yeah, I don't think that tastes good. Going back and forth between crab and pineapple. Like I'd
You're
eat all
right.
like the crab first, and then I'd eat all the pineapple.
I was thinking that too. I don't really know what crab tastes like, but I wouldn't mix it either. It sounds kind of
Oh, it's
gross.
it's delicious.
No, I mean mixing.
That's what. Oh yeah,
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mix. I don't know what crab tastes like, but I wouldn't mix it either. I would eat the crab
yeah,
first, and I would consider the pineapple like dessert.
yeah. No, crab is delicious. I missed my crab like Saturday nights there when I was working at the club.
Hey, you know who LDG is, right? You ever seen his videos where he goes to the buffet?
I do not watch. I do not watch his buffet videos. Just for the plain simple fact is, I don't like watching other people eat on a video.
Okay, well they're hilarious because he loves seafood.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. Marianne continues feeding Gilligan. That reminds me, LGG hasn't been on my channel a while. I hope he's okay. I need to stop by and say hello to him. So,
Yeah, I just
Skipper,
seen
will
him
you finish
Sunday.
feeding Gilligan? What's that?
I just seen him Sunday. He was doing pretty good at
Okay.
what I seen him Sunday.
Well, plus, like this is late for him. He's in Florida 3 hour time, so for him this is past midnight. So I can understand. Skipper, will you finish feeding Gilligan for me, please? Says Marianne. I'm not. I'm on this diet and I can't, says Skipper, and he immediately changes his mind. Wait, certainly, I'd be glad to help you feed Gilligan. He says. He just run right along to Marianne. Of course, this is exactly what he was hoping to hear. This is funny here. Skipper has the spoon, and he gets a spoonful of pineapple, and says, "Now, Gilligan, open your mouth real wide. Now, watch the Skipper here." And of course, he tries to eat it, and of course, Gilligan knocks it out of his hand. "Oh no, you're not supposed to eat that," says Gilligan. And Skipper gets frustrated. Unfortunately, I've got to have something. Remember the Navy, says Gilligan. I'll remember the Navy, but just a taste then? Or could I lick the bowl? Never ask somebody if you can lick the bowl. Hey, have you ever heard that term, lick the bowl, Gorilla?
Yeah.
Did you ever say that? Did you ever say that to your mom when she was cooking dinner? Like making a cake or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we always got to lick the beaters and got to lick the spoons and stuff
Right.
there.
When I was a teacher, you know what I taught my elementary kids?
But
Because I asked them the same thing. I said, "You guys are." It's an old joke, but it's a good one. And I asked the kids the same thing I asked you. I said, "You guys ever ask your mom if you can lick the bowl?" "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, next time, wait and let one of your sisters or your brothers ask. Next time they say, 'Can I lick the bowl?' Tell them no, just flush it." It's an old joke. Sorry. So here we
yeah,
have Skipper being frustrated. "Darn me," he says. He's heartbroken. And we have Mr. Howell preparing what looks like a fancy feast. And Mrs. Howell, darling, I've surpassed even myself. Oh, he says, darling, I've surpassed even myself. Don't you agree? It's so yummy, he says. And what's interesting, I noticed when he gives her a spoonful of this, it is actually really hot. You can see it steaming. And yeah, you can see her hesitate because it is hot. So I'm glad to see they went to the effort of that. So it says, what say, hearty hearts? And she says, And she says, an epic purity and delight. He says, darling, I thought you'd make a fuss over it. Says, of course, that's not good enough for him. And she says, oh, darling. And of course, he pouts. Thurston, dear, why have you never made bouillabaisse at home? Back home, our house is so big, I can't find the kitchen, he says. And he says, once I find the kitchen, I can't find the stove. Oh, Thurston, aha, as he takes a drink from the bottle and then adds more to the bouillabaisse. Yes, all right, dear. Yeah, you have my deepest sympathy, says the skipper. Are you out of your mind? I haven't eaten in 3 days, he says. Don't worry, skipper, it still tastes the same, Gilligan tells him.
now
And here
that
Mr.
was
Trout, oh, Gilligan, I
purposefully.
made a dish. Yes, and he says, I made a dish to titillate even your unsophisticated palate. Behold, the specialty de maison. And Gilligan says, what is it? It smells like fish stew. Mr. Howell says, fish stew? World famous French recipe, bouillabaisse. What does bouillabaisse mean in English, says Gilligan. Mr. Howell says, it's fish stew. Eat it, my boy. Eat, Gilligan, my boy. Oh, the nutritious goodness. And he tells the skipper, you must wait. And here we have with Ginger and the professor. Here you are, professor. I washed it real good. Good, he says. She washed the bowl, and she's enjoying watching the professor. It's so scientific. You know, I took chemistry when I was in high school, she said. I'll never forget one day when I was in class, I mixed ammonia with some kind of acid. Is that what Gilligan said? I got a
Yeah,
date with the most handsome young fireman, she said. Okay, yeah, so she started a fire too. So
yeah,
her and Gilligan both.
yeah. Because Professor asked, "Go, let me guess, you got expelled."
Right. Right, that's the problem with these slides is it skips some of the text. Sorry, I apologize, everybody. Well, I think it's finished, he says. Just let it cool and we'll be all set, he says. And there you are, he fills the bowl. And here we are. Gilligan, here's the surprise I promised you, says Marianne. Coconut cream pie. And he says, no, Marianne. You take it to somebody else. I can't eat another bite. And she said, well, I made it just for you. Now eat it. So, of course, Gilligan has the pie. Ralph's almost finished this, Skipper. Come over and take a look at it. As he does that, Gilligan trips and hits Skipper in the face with the pie. Well, you clumsy, bumbling, says Skipper. I'm sorry, Skipper. I tripped on the toolbox, and the Skipper's realizing that the pie tastes good. And Gilligan says, here, let me take it off. And Skipper starts grabbing Gilligan and pushing the pie into his mouth and licking Gilligan's fingers. And he says, after all,
Mm,
accidents will happen. So there's the bowl of the phosphate. There it is. It's phosphorescent dye that's going to get us off here, says the professor. Let's put it on the wrap. Please allow me, says Ginger. And he says, oh, no, no, Ginger. I don't think I could duplicate this formula again. She says, I won't drop it. Who do you think I am, Gilligan? And he says, oh, no, we haven't been on the island that long, he says. So she smiles and leaves. And now we have the Hal Hut. And of course, Mr. Howell once again is playing golf. Thurston, Thurston. Oh, Thurston, says Miss Howell as she comes running in. I just heard the most marvelous news. We'll launch the raft tonight as soon as it gets dark. Lovey, lovey, curb your exuberance, says Mr. Howell. Remember, after all, you are a Howell. You can give it a real rouser, she says. Oh, do you think we dare? Oh, we live dangerously, he says. 1, 2, 3, hurrah. So they're trying to subdue their excitement. Ready, Skipper? All ready, Professor.
yeah.
Now here we have the
Well,
professor comes with the.
oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, as soon as they did that, they kind of did it flinch like that. I was like, well, for a second, I thought that, oh, did they just actually hear them make the professor drop it
No.
like when
No,
they did
what
their
happened was this.
hoorah?
No, they said
Yeah, I
hurrah, and then
know.
they're in their hut. Remember, and it cut to the other part where the professor and Gilligan are. This is a
Yeah.
different part of the
Well,
island.
they did that. Yeah, they did the flinch there. So I like for a second, I thought, oh, I thought maybe that hurrah startled the professor and he dropped the frostbite for a second until they cut to this scene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, he's not. He's not near the house. He's over by where Gilligan and Skipper are working on the raft, and he's got the phosphate. And he walks up to them, and they're talking, just about to take it to the lagoon. Says Skipper, "Can I help, Skipper? I'll help him. You just eat," says the professor. So Skipper and the professor grab the raft. All right, heave ho, Professor.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be
You
that
notice
heavy,
that?
but here,
Yeah. Did you
go
notice
ahead.
something that professor forgot to tell Gilligan?
Right, this is where Professor sets the bowl on the table and then walks over to help Skipper with the raft. And
Yep.
there they go toward the lagoon. There's Gilligan finishing the last of the, I'm guessing it's either the crab or the pineapple. Looks like crab. And not knowing, he grabs the bowl that the professor set on the table. I think it's not
Mhm.
poison, I guess. And he starts eating the bowl that the professor put on the table. And
Mhm.
now we have later that evening. Well, you've done a fine job, Skipper, says the professor. I will put the phosphorescent dye in the receptacles. All right, it's back there on the table by Gilligan, they say. Oh, Gilligan, and they call for Gilligan. There's a bowl on the
Yeah.
table.
Now I got a
Isn't it
question.
exciting? Sure.
Yeah, how was that supposed to work? Were they supposed to like light it on fire so they could
No,
create
hold
like a
on.
flame or?
No. Did you hear the professor where he said they'll put the dye into the receptacles? Did you see that? Let me go back.
Yeah, I heard.
All right. All right. Now, can you see those poles that look like they're standing up?
Yeah.
All right. Those are the receptacles that the professor's talking about. There's one on each corner of the raft. And what he's planning on doing is pouring the dye into those holes. And the holes, oh, sorry. He's going to pour the dye into those tubes or the receptacles, which are made out of bamboo. And on the bottom of those receptacles, he made little holes. So what happens when you set the raft adrift, that dye slowly leaks out of those receptacles and it starts spreading in the water, which makes an airplane able to see it from up above. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay, okay.
Right. Okay. So they say, all right, it's back there on the table by Gilligan. So Skipper yells, Gilligan, there's a bowl on the table. And Ginger's, isn't it exciting, Skipper? And she turns around, as you can see from a different odd angle. And oh, and they hear her and they all turn around. And here we have where they shot this. And this is just negative. Unfortunately, they didn't have a lot of money back then. They definitely didn't have the special effects. But this is basically just a negative shot where, it's transposed. So to look like Gilligan is glowing. And he doesn't quite understand yet. And then I think they're now starting to realize what happened. And he says, I've got the bowl. It's empty. Oh, no, says the skipper. Now it's Gilligan realizing, oh, no, Skipper. And here we cut to a later scene. And Skipper saying, Gilligan, I've heard of some stupid things, but this takes the cake. If you hadn't eaten the professor's formula, well, I'm sorry, Skipper. And he says, oh, never mind. Maybe a plane or a ship will spot us, says the skipper. I hope so. I'm doing everything I can, says Gilligan. Never mind, Gilligan, says the skipper. Now just shut up and keep turning. And up at the top, we have Gilligan doing this. So I guess he's acting like a lighthouse.
Yep. Now, how long is that supposed to last like that?
Yeah, that we'll never know.
Yeah.
And he turns, and the episode ends, and we have our closing credits. We'll have to make the best of things. It's enough he'll clown. Like Robinson Crusoe, it's primitive as can be. You're on Gilligan's Isle. And there we go. And now we completed this episode, Physical Fatness. And I just realized I was so busy earlier and running behind that I forgot to put a poll in the chat on which episode. I usually put a poll asking everybody which episode they like the most. So if you're still listening, it looks like we only have one viewer. So that's going to be Older Greg or Lemon Pie. You can vote in the chat if you'd like which episode you like the most. You don't have to put the name of the episode. You can put one or two if you'd like. Gorilla, which one did you like the best?
That's hard to say. They're both pretty decent. But yeah, I don't
They
think I
are.
really remember much of a bad episode of Gilligan's Island.
Nope, not yet. No.
And Lemon Pie says, "It's me, it's me, it's
It's
me."
me. It's me. Lemon Pie, thank you for having the courage and the fortitude to stick through to the end. I really do appreciate. I forgot to change the name on my character.
Yeah.
I have a
Oh, StreamYards is off.
Oh well, good.
Yeah,
Herc
StreamYards
130
is off.
good. Well, I'm glad to see you
Yes.
guys are still there.
Yeah. I'm
And I
guessing the
wanted
others had to go to bed.
probably, which I
They'll probably
understand.
catch it in the morning.
Yeah, I understand it is late. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I know we had Scogly here. I know we had Mad Scientist. We had Captain Infinity, Euler Greg. And of course we had Lemon Pie. And I think that's about it.
Did you say Herc?
Okay. Herc 130, that's right. I don't know if I said it, but I thank you for reminding me. I'll say it again. If I didn't mention your name, please say darn you in the chat. And I'll make sure to mention you and give you a shout out, I promise. So, yeah, my favorite one, as I'm guessing, what's interesting too is that when the first one started, I thought, oh no, it's going to be another clip episode. Because remember, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. And remember the clip episode, they had that with the Christmas episode earlier in the season where they just showed clips from previous episodes. So at first, I thought it was going to be just a clip episode where they were going to rehash clips from a previous episode. But when I saw that they brought back Vito Scotti to play the Japanese soldier so that they could show the stories from the different views of the castaways, I thought that was kind of clever. So I'm glad they went to the effort of that. So because of that, I'd have to vote the first episode being my favorite. I did like the second one, but I liked the first one the best, I'm guessing, between the two.
And welcome, PvP.
PvP, hello. And I'm just getting ready to end the stream. I'm sorry, PvP.
Yeah, he's asking if you did a poll yet on the next horror stream.
No, I'm hoping if this stream doesn't last too long on PvP, I'm hoping to do that tonight. I've got 2 polls to put up. I've got to put up one for the horror stream and one for what we're going to cover after I'm done with Star Trek, the animated series. It's just PvP, it's been a long week. Gorilla and I were talking about that. I did a stream on Monday, and then I did 2 streams Tuesday, and then we had that stream last night that was over 4 hours. And this one here, which is going on 2.5 hours. So I'm going to do my best to get that up tonight, that poll. No worries, got home got home late. All right, PvP. I'm glad you made it home safely. Have some eggnog, PvP. Okay, and so thank you everybody in the chat. Thank you. Like I said before, without you guys, I wouldn't be here. You guys are my favorite. You're my friends, and I love you guys. And Gorilla Random Thought says, "Darn you, well, Gorilla, you know I'm going to thank you most of all. I'm going to thank you most of all. You're my co-host."
I had to put that in the chat.
Which is totally fine. That's what I asked you to do. And PvP says, just eating and then sleep as soon as work. We're early tomorrow. Yeah, me too. That's another thing too. Is after all this, I've still got to get up really early in the morning. Let me price the
I probably won't work. I probably won't be working tomorrow.
Well, it's great if you get to sleep in, and then you'll avoid having to drive in that snow too, right? In the cold.
Well, I won't know, but like the road closures cut off about 2 miles west of town. There, the roads 2 miles west of town are all closed, but yet the highway and the interstate's open. Well, technically the county roads are closed, so I'll probably just tell my boss the roads are still closed over here.
Okay. Well, if you get to stay home, then I'm jealous. So yeah, stay warm and maybe post a video of my sexy. I want a video of my sexy snow woman.
Well, I'd rather be at work than shoveling all this damn snow. Cause I put up 3 videos today.
Oh, nice. I will check them out. Yeah, you're right. At least being at work, you're getting paid for your work, right?
Yeah, because like the one car that's in the one short there, it's completely buried now.
Your
It's
car or
already up
somebody
to
else?
the. I let my old boss store the car in my driveway.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Lemon pie says it's
Yeah,
in the 70s here.
yeah. Pleasant Valley Picker. They said it's an unprecedented blizzard, meaning we haven't seen one for like 3 years. But
Wow.
last I measured, the official snow count is at 10.5 inches. That's where the wind wasn't blowing. But then you get where the wind's blowing and all that. I got a 5.5 foot drift in my driveway.
Ooh, okay. Lemon pie says sorry. I'm guessing sorry. He's saying lemon. I'm not he, but I'm guessing lemon pie is saying sorry about the storm. About hearing about the
Yeah.
storm.
Well, Lemon Pie, if tomorrow I'll be offering free shoveling lessons, you can get a real hands-on experience.
Yeah, just go to Minnesota. Okay. So thank you once again to everybody in the chat. I really appreciate it. Please pay attention and keep your eyes or ears open for my polls that I'll be putting in the chat for the horror stream and what we will be following up with Star Trek the animated series. I am so exhausted tonight. Oh, I can't wait to go
Yeah,
to bed. I've got to figure out
yeah.
what I'm going to eat for dinner. Something quick and easy. I hope.
Oh, we had chicken noodle soup for lunch, and PvP there. I will stay safe because I'm not like these dumbasses who thinks when it says no travel advice just to go out and check out the damn roads there. Though we did have they did have to, though snowplows did have to escort an ambulance to Sioux Falls, Sioux Falls there. That's good. That's a long. It'll be a long ass drive for them.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And PvP is very cold here the past 2 days. Arctic air, but thankfully no snow. Stay safe, Gorilla.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, thank you, everybody in the chat, and thank you most of all, Gorilla. I really appreciate you being with me here tonight.
Yep.
And I will check out your videos, I promise. And I'll be saying hi throughout the week whenever you do your live streams. You want to tell us about your channel, Gorilla?
Well, like today, I did three or four four shorts like today and stuff, and then like on Fridays there, I already got it up, but Fridays I do Walton's reviews. We're on the Dust Bowl cousins. Then on Saturdays, we're watching episodes of Babylon 5. We're
Cool.
on season 4, episodes 5 and 6. Sundays, we're on our last dog movie, and that'll be Call the Wild. And
Okay, nice.
then next month we'll be starting the Matrix movies.
Ooh, those are
And
fun.
welcome Sean Carter. And
Hey, Sean Carter.
on Wednesdays we'll we do Stranger Things. Now I don't know what we'll be doing after Stranger Things. I want to try to find something that will attract people to come watch because right now it's been mostly me and Germ.
Okay.
So I
Well,
gotta find
but are you talking about find something to watch after you're done with watching what?
Stranger Things.
Okay, so you're done. You're all caught up on that.
Yeah, we got 3 episodes left.
Okay.
But
Oh,
I
very
I
cool.
want to keep Wednesdays on like the short seasons and short like a short series, not no extended um I want like 1 or 2 season shows there so keep like so some of these more unrecognized shows.
Good idea. Good idea. Something a little more original. And Sean Carter says just popped in to say hi before hitting the rack. I think he means sack. And there is a link to Gorilla's Random Thoughts channel. Everybody, please check it out and sub to his
Yeah,
channel. He's got a lot of great content.
yeah,
If you enjoyed the stream tonight, please hit the like button on your way out if you'd like. If you haven't subbed to my channel, please do and hit the alert button.
yeah.
Share with your friends.
Yeah, yeah. Because the only reason we did Stranger Things is because Germ like only watched like 10 minutes of the one thing. And I was like, oh come on, give it. It's pretty good. Give me 6 episodes. Then we just kind of kept on going.
Oh, but nice. Well. That's nice of Jeremy to keep you company.
Yeah.
Sean Carter says hola, Lemon, and then Pi says hola también. Okay, so thank you once again, everybody in the chat. I really appreciate it. I will be seeing you all soon. My next stream will be Monday, Star Trek the Animated Series, and then Tuesday night, our weekly horror stream, and then Wednesday, next Gilligan's Island with 2 more episodes. Lemon Pie says, "Say Lemon Magnifico." Okay, so without further ado, everybody take care. I know wherever you're at, it's warm, it's cold. Some of us have a lot of storms to deal with, so drive safely and peace.